Good evening, everyone. This will begin the public hearing for the December 1st, 2021 Preservation Board hearing, and I'm going to turn it over to the chair. Chris, you're on mute.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 1st, 2021 Preservation Board hearing for the City of Rochester. My name is Christopher Coretta. I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. I'm an associate real estate broker living in the historic Grove Place Preservation District. I also sit on the executive committee for the Landmark Society of Western New York, as well as a trustee on their board. We're meeting tonight under extraordinary circumstances due to state and local emergency orders requiring social distancing. We amended the Rochester Preservation Board bylaws to allow us to conduct this hearing as authorized by the governor's and mayor's emergency orders and waive other requirements in order to proceed with this online hearing. These waivers permit us to hold this hearing by teleconference with no in-person attendance, allow applicant presentations by teleconference, and require all public comments, both in favor of and opposed to the application, to be submitted in writing, by email, or by hard copy document mailed to the zoning office, or deposited in the secure drop box located in the link entrance of City Hall. All written public comments are all required to be submitted by 5 p.m. yesterday. Although this hearing's been altered from some of our normal procedures, many things remain the same. All the normal notifications for this hearing, including mailed notice, publication, and the posting of notice, were followed. All the normal timeframes for applicant presentations and comments in favor of and opposed to the application remain the same. And most importantly, this board will hear, review, and make decisions about all the applications with the same diligence and using the same standards as required by the zoning code. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone that when a case is called, the applicant will be allowed 15 minutes to present. The applications are posted on the city website and available for the public to review. All applicants were advised to ensure that their applications were complete and included all information that they intend to present at this hearing tonight. As the application is presented, staff will, as reasonably as possible, show the pages of the application the applicant is addressing. Following our normal procedure, the board members may ask the applicant questions. If during the hearing the board determines that substantial new evidence has been submitted by the applicant during the presentation or is given in response to questions by the board, the case will be adjourned to the next announced hearing date to allow the public to review that new evidence and to submit additional comments. After the applicant's presentation is completed, staff will read into record any comments received after the comment deadline that are not already posted on the city website. After all the comments have been read, the applicant will have 5 minutes to offer any testimony and rebuttal. The board will commence deliberations and voting after the public hearing of each agenda item, with the exception of any applications that are being adjourned. Please also note that if your case is approved today, a written decision will be mailed to you within 15 business days. The decision will inform you of the next steps to complete the approval process. Before we open the first case, please note that all board members are volunteers. I'd like each of the board members to confirm their presence for purposes of establishing a quorum for this hearing and to introduce themselves and mention their area of expertise. We'll do that in alphabetical order. We'll start with Ed Kane, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ed Kane, and I'm a resident of the East Avenue Preservation District.
Thank you, Ed. Gerald Yam.
And good evening. I am a resident of the East Avenue Preservation District also. I'm a professor of political science and history at the University of Rochester and sit on the Board of Trustees of the Landmark Society.
Thank you. David Matthews.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Matthews. I'm an architect and I live in the Highland Park neighborhood.
Thanks, David. And our co-chair, Kirsten Solberg.
Hello, Kirsten Solberg. I'm an architect and I live in the Browncroft neighborhood.
Staff. Matthew, would you like to start?
Yes, sorry, I went to go do it and I dropped everything off my desk. My name is Matt Simonis and I am staff in the zoning office.
Thanks, Matt. Tom Worth.
My name's Tom Worth. I'm with the City Law Department and legal counsel to the Preservation Board. And next, I turn it over to Kate.
I'm sorry.
Hello, Kate Powers. I'm a senior city planner with the city of Rochester, and I'm support staff tonight for Matt Simonis.
Thank you, Kate. We can't forget Andrew Creary.
Thanks, Chris. I'm Andrew Creary. I am also an attorney with the City of Rochester Law Department and counsel to the Preservation Board.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I'll turn it over to Matt Simonis, and you can introduce our first case, please.
Yes, absolutely. And as was announced during the pre-meeting, case number 987 East Avenue is going to be heard last, which will make case number 2 our first case. Case number 2, which is file number A-023-2122. The applicant is the property owner, Pilar Dubac Penny. The project address is 2 Menlo Place. The property is located in the R1 Low Density Residential District, as well as the Mount Hope Highland Park Preservation District. And the purpose is to replace a series of existing double hung windows on the 2nd and 3rd floors of a 2-family dwelling.
Thank you. And all board members have visited the site. And Pilar, are you with us? I just need to swear you in.
Give it just a second. For some reason, Zoom has been taking, here she comes over. Just as an FYI, the moving people back and forth is a bit delayed of recent. So she is on, but Pilar, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Pilar Dubec Panay, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Pilar, if you can hear us, could you unmute yourself?
I think you're on a computer. If you go to the lower left corner with the symbol of a microphone, there'll be a red slash through it. Just click that. Pilar, can you hear us? Send her a message. Hold on one second, guys. Here, her microphone must not be working. Hold on one second. Let's try to connect her either to another device or we'll do the next case and come back to this. But while she's on, let me try to connect her right now.
Could it be a problem that she's on via?
Oh, I just
Here
unmuted.
she comes.
All right.
Here we go. Pilar, are you there? It looks like you're on 2 devices. I see you're raising your hand. We can't hear you from the computer one. I don't know if the second one is a phone. All right, let's jump to the next case in the interest of time here.
I'm getting something. It sounded like Pilar was coming through. Pilar, are you there? Sorry, I must have been mistaken.
Not on you.
Tom, I thought I heard them cough. So
Me too.
Let's go to the next case. Kate, in the meantime, when the next case is being heard, can you possibly call her and ask about the two devices that are happening and see if we can get that? Oh,
sure.
oh, hold on. Here we go. You are not Pilar. Who are you? Sir, you just turned your video on. You're on the panelists. Can you tell us who you are?
And shut it off. I'm gonna go. They want to see me.
Well, we can hear her.
We are.
Okay, here I am.
All right.
Thank
Okay.
you so much. I'm so sorry. That was my husband I was running from the other computer that we're gonna shut off. So I
Okay,
apologize
so-
for the time. I don't know what happened to my computer.
Okay, so we're gonna swear you in.
All right.
Pilar Dubuque-Pinay.
Are we okay now?
Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
Hello?
the truth? Pilar, can you hear us?
Yeah, but you need to shut off over there. Can you see me?
Yes, can you hear us okay?
Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you. Can you
Okay,
hear
can you
us?
hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you
No?
hear us? Can you hear us?
Okay.
I don't understand. I
Okay.
don't know.
Let's go to the next case,
Here's
please.
what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do. Kate, can you move the next folks in and move Pilar back out, and then we'll try to connect with her. I'm gonna. Yeah, she can't hear us. Okay. All right. The next case is We'll hear that one next. Case number 3 is file A-024-2122. The applicant is the property owner, Robert Rassone. Project address is 34 Vic Park B. The zoning district is R2 medium density residential district. The property is also located in the East Avenue Preservation District. The request is to legalize the front porch steps and railings and the painting of the porch, which was previously not painted, on the front of a multifamily dwelling. And Robert, the property owner, is here with us tonight. Robert, you can go ahead and unmute yourself in the lower left corner, and then the chair will swear you in.
Okay.
Hello, Robert. Hello, Robert. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Robert
Great.
Rassone, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, it is.
Great. And we've all visited the site. We're ready for your presentation.
Okay. I'd worked with Chris Snyder in the past. I originally had been, well, my house was originally designed with a set of, did I lose everyone? Oh, no, I didn't. Just one railing going up. The stairs were not as wide as where the stone foundation starts. So the steps were narrow and there's bushes on either side. And originally there was just one pipe railing going up and over. And then as that deteriorated, I built wooden steps and railings, wooden railings, I should say, that went up and over. And apparently that didn't work for this area because it was a stone foundation. I kind of just mimicked the house across the street, matched the steps and everything to the painting of the house, and it looked nice. And I did all those measurements by code. So I had to have an architect with that drawing that you have up in front of you, design it architecturally with drawings so that I would widen the steps so that they go up parallel and meet the stone foundation. and widen the concrete at the base. That was fine and all until I noticed I was with Rick Rivera doing a walkthrough for all the internal parts of your, that needs to be done with the house, smoke alarms, whatever. And then there was the stones were sticking out. And I was like, because if you can see on some of the other pictures, I don't know how well you can see it, the facing that the steps were mounted to is not that red facing that you see. And I was like, how's that going to work? So I started getting back in touch with Chris earlier this year, Snyder. And I said, what I'd like to do is with wrought iron railing, just kind of do what originally was done, or like as an example, pictures from the area, wrought iron going up and wrought iron going left and right. So I had some estimates come out, do some drawings as best they could on a computer. And Chris said I needed better detailed drawings like the ones you have on the screen here. I found it impossible to find anyone who would take such a small little thing like this. So I said, I got back in touch with Chris and I said, you know what, it's going to probably cost way too much to even have new drawings done. I'll just find a way to make it work like the original approved drawings from my last application. And then my emails bounced back. And then I found out Chris wasn't there. So that's when I met Matt. And I met with Matt and did exactly what I told Chris. And I met with Matt and said, here's the original architectural drawings that I had done. I'm just going to go back to what was originally approved and make it work with what you see in front of you. Wrought iron railings going up, wider steps as wide as the stone porch foundation, and widen the concrete at the base and make it happen. So yeah, exactly. That flaring as it works its way in. And really that's it. I'll just do what was originally approved. I wanted to do the wrought iron left and right but it's not worth the hassle and money to try to make that happen when for probably the same effort and cost, just do what was originally approved to begin with.
Okay, well, great. Thank you for the presentation. We'll start with questions and we'll start with Ed Kane. Ed, do you have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Kane?
Sorry about that. You didn't talk about the stone that had been painted.
Right. I thought we'd take one at a time. So the stone, when they had painted the house, they mixed in a mortar mix with the color of the paint of the home. And to preserve the mortar, because if you've ever pointed old mortar, it's a lot of work to scrape out what's old and put in what's new, because making cement stick to cement is very hard. And that was to preserve it. I was not aware, it was never brought up in any of my inspections about it until we were reviewing these drawings for what was the topic of issue, meaning we have to eliminate the wooden railings and replace with wrought iron. Someone noticed the color of the stone as being the color of the house, and it had nothing that had been previously discussed. So they asked me to get estimates on removing it. And I only found one person a while back, and I still haven't been able to find anyone who would even touch it with a 10-foot pole, because you can't use acid any longer. You obviously can't use any kind of power washing or pressure washing, definitely not sandblasting, because you would destroy it, all the mortar joints. So I'd seen as I drove around, as I looked around and said, wow, there's a lot of stone foundations right in the historic district that are painted. Even the woman from the Historical Preservation Board didn't have any, or what's it called?
Society?
Landmark Society?
Yes, thank you. As I keep me from flipping pages, said the same thing. I don't know how you're going to remove that without, damaging everything. So the only thing I can think of to try to make a happy medium here is repaint it with like a stone color. So it would be a stone color over that color. You'd probably have to walk up to the house to notice that the stone had been painted, but at least it would look that I'm looking for a countertop or something, but with the color of stone, like Ed's couch there, that lamp color like that, like stone paint color.
That was my only question.
That's
Okay.
That's the best. I mean, I was when I was talking with Chris before he had resigned. I said, Chris, I can't find a painter, a paint removal company, masons, no one who does that because of all the environmental issues today with acids and stuff. And that's when I came up with, let's just paint it stone colored.
Okay, I guess I'm next. Have you looked into, actually from Park Megs Neighborhood Association had a decent idea. Have you looked into dry ice or CO2 blasting?
Dry ice or CO2 blasting? I don't have anything on that, but anything with pressure, I'm sure would, as even Caitlin or anyone would know, how you would hit just the stone and not the mortar is impossible. You'd have to be working with a.
Well, I don't know if Caitlin's a sandblasting expert, but she could give you probably referrals from the Landmark Society. But I would definitely, I'm sure there's some process that could be looked into.
Dry
other
ice,
question.
If I were to guess, just knowing the way water and temperatures work, dry ice could most likely freeze, and water freezes, expands, and crack.
Yeah.
More.
We're not here for guesses. The last decision of the Pres Board asked you to get a professional opinion.
True.
My next question is also something brought up by the Park Megs Neighborhood Association, and another good point. Attaching the hand railing and end post to the sidewalk is a bit unusual. Choosing the alternative of having the railing end post installed on the bottom step would be more visually appealing. Would you be willing to change it to that?
Oh yeah. That's actually what I wanted, because if you ever need to replace the steps, how the heck could you do it if it'd make much more sense?
Okay.
I never even saw that they were going to bolt it to. It sounds like what you're saying there, Chris, is into the concrete, the new concrete. Yep. No, I would end it at the last step and then extend the 1 foot that's required past the step.
Okay. That was my only other question, but I did want to thank you for working with us, and this much better, this presentation, and I greatly appreciate it.
Sure.
Gerald Gam, any questions?
Yes, and I also wanted to thank you for coming back. I remember you from 3 years ago and appreciate the work you've done in responding to our initial comments. My question is also about the steps. My understanding, number one, is that we haven't yet approved steps, that the hold notice just gave guidelines for steps. So I just want to check, because you said this was approved. Am I correct that these drawings have not been approved?
I was under the assumption that they were approved back initially when I had my first approval, but then obviously a lot of things came into place, such as different surgeries and COVID that I've gone through. But everything was, I thought that was approved as far as the steps, because all you have to follow with steps is the distance of the height, how far out they reach, for each steps, for footing as you go up, the overhang of each step, all those things are pretty much
Yep.
standard with even when you buy your stringers and width of steps at Lowe's or Home Depot, they're kind of pre-cut to standard oh, there they are, treads and risers. There you go.
Gerald, this is Matt, staff. I'm just trying to get clarification on this. I'm in our property system now. I don't see any previous approvals of this.
Well, let's go to page
Robert,
7
I'm
of the
wondering
staff
if-
report.
Yeah, if you can show
That
page
says
7.
they weren't approved, that they needed to present some information after working to develop a new design.
Right, thank you, Tom.
Right,
That's my
thank
memory
you.
too, that this is,
Yeah.
this is my memory, that this is the last statement by the board, that nothing was approved. And the board made the following request to design the steps to be as wide as the opening of the porch entry, to work with the design professional. So I just wanted to clarify, because it's possible I was wrong, but I think this is where we left things, was with some rough guidelines, but not with an approved drawing. Okay. So if we could go back to page 8. So if we could go to page 8, my question is, in fact, with the profile of the steps themselves. And do we have information as to the risers and the treads and how it's going to look from the side and how it's going to look from the front? The only information I could see is that tiny little image in the upper right-hand corner of this page. And so I just want to be certain that the risers are solid, that the treads overhang a little bit, that in fact, these are intentional decisions that are being made in this drawing.
Exactly. That's what I was saying a moment ago, that when I said everything about, your height of step and your overhang of treads, some of it, maybe it doesn't say it there. Nosing, 11-inch tread plus 1-inch nosing, maximum 7-inch risers. Those are all things that are actually in place even now, because I took all the city's criteria of measurements when I originally built those wooden railings and brought all those into play, which, like I said, at pretty much at Home Depot or Lowe's, those things are kind of all cut to what almost seems like I don't want to say national code, but they're pretty standard, like a 12-ounce can. I mean, that's the way it is. 12 ounces, 12 ounces.
Okay, so my other question is about the railing. Is the railing wrought iron or is it aluminum?
It's not, they don't make, that's a great question, because I kept searching for, and I got the names, I used the names from Caitlin. Wrought iron actually went out in the 60s. It's steel that's a powder coat is what everything is today. It has a wrought iron look from 50 years ago, but steel went out with the last war. Well, not the last war.
Okay, so the irony is we're actually restoring a wrought iron fence like this week. So I know wrought iron is available. So it's very much available, and there are multiple people in the city who work with wrought iron. Is it your plan to do this in wrought iron or do it in aluminum?
No, I had estimates from Residential Railing and Fence Company, from Caitlin, and from Ruttner Iron, and or is it Rochester Railing? And it's steel. It's not actual the iron that we think of, that one piece this big weighs 5 pounds. It's steel. It's powder coated to look like wrought iron. You can do a Google search and you punch in wrought iron, companies come up, but it's actually, it's almost like the wood they use on decks. What's that type of wood now called? They don't put wood down anymore. They put that stuff that looks like wood, but it's durable for 100 years. What's that?
Okay, so you're using steel, not aluminum.
Correct.
Have you considered having the steel painted with a glossy enamel paint?
Sure.
Okay, that's something that might make sense. Okay, my only other question, and I'll stop, is in the drawing, the railing goes over the column to the left. And I'm wondering if you would consider, depending on what others on the board think, not only ending the railing on the bottom step rather than the sidewalk, but not beginning the railing until you get past the column. So
Yeah.
the top of the railing enters into the side of the column rather than goes over the top of the column.
Right. So it would end on the top of the stairwells instead
Yes.
of being, is that, yeah, I don't, that doesn't
Okay.
matter. to me.
Okay, thank you very much.
And
Okay, thank you, Gerald. Yes, sir.
Back to that question on the paint thing, because that's really a concern of mine. I searched high and low and did a ton of phone calls, and I couldn't get anyone to consider it with a 10-foot pole, and no one's giving me any direction on it. If you have a direction of options or companies that specialize in that, I'm more than willing to make those calls and say, go give me an estimate on your process, whatever that process is. Just to satisfy whomever may be that, hey, I made the calls with the names you gave me, and here's what we came up with, because I've come up with zilch.
Mr. Rizzone, did you consult with John Lembach, like was suggested in the prior decision?
Yep, I did actually. And I have emails back and forth with Chris saying that I gave contact dates. I sent Chris copies of my emails and phone
No,
calls.
not Chris, John Lembach.
Yes. What I was getting to is that I didn't receive replies to emails and messages, and I sent copies of that to Chris saying, hey, look, I've tried to get in touch with John. And I think that was more what John was going to help me with, was about the concrete, because his house, he changed to these diagrams where the concrete comes out into a 4-foot flare. He showed me pictures of that when we were at a meeting. We pulled up a Google satellite and zoomed on it, but that was the only other contact exchange after that, because there was just no replies. But since he didn't reply, I was like, well, I don't really see at this point why I should keep chasing him. I saw the pictures of his house. I got the drawings. I just got to do the work once the weather breaks.
Okay. Tom, did you have any other questions? Okay. Dave Matthews, questions for the applicant?
Yeah, there's a couple. One thing that's missing in the railing drawing is your handrail, and you're going to have to work with, the code enforcement office to get this to a point where it's, approvable by the building code standards. So you have the guardrail, and the top of the guardrail could be the handrail, I suppose, but it's not clear on that. In your existing porch stairs, you have the guardrails on either side, and then you have a white handrail on the left side.
Exactly. That's if you look, excuse me. Sorry. All the modern day type of, pre-made posts with that and railings are, not the railings, the top railing for the spindles are like 5 inches wide or so. And then that's why they build your typical, inch and a half hand railing, because it needs to be something separate, smaller to hold on to. These would actually would serve as a dual purpose. It's both your guard and your hand. It'd be a duplication to do anything different. You'd be putting a whatever inch and a half railing next to an inch and a half top railing.
Yeah. So your guardrail is one height based on code, and your handrail is not going to match that. So I think there's some details you need to work through. But so I guess I'm asking, do you have a design professional you're going to work through with that, or were you planning to consult with the code office to work through those details?
I guess I would ask your assistance on that to work with code office to put, so for the sake of just numbers, if it's 42 inches, the height of your top railing from your steps, you got your that holds the two railings that would hold your spindles together.
Yep.
And that's, obviously the height off your, on a 45-degree angle off your steps.
Yep.
What you're saying then is the top railing portion, you have to have next to it a hand railing, although it may be the same width as the top spindle railing. You're saying it needs to be a little lower than what the railing that holds the spindles together?
The building code dictates it needs to fall within 34 to 38 inches above your step or your landing. So yes, there's another element in there that you have to resolve with the design in here.
So it says new metal railing on the page that we're on right now, page 9, on the top right towards the foundation.
Yep.
If it falls in that range, that 34 to 38, wouldn't that serve as a dual purpose railing?
For a multi-family house.
Yeah, meaning it's a top metal railing. What you're going to put your hand on is 34 to 38 inches high, and it's the same width, the metal railing that holds the spindles. If it's the same,
it's a different code regulation. So I think you're going to need to work with the code official to get those resolved in there. So yes, they need to be two different elements.
Yeah, and that's what this board asked for back in 2018, that you work with the code enforcement officials to get that right.
So
I missed that part.
I think you have the basis for the drawings here, but there's some details you need to work out. So it's just, I wanted you to be aware of that.
And that's with Matt to work with regarding the exact measurement difference of top railing for the spindles versus hand railing for the steps.
Rob, what they're describing is when you request a building permit, you're subject to two codes. One is the zoning code, the local zoning code, which is why you're here before the preservation board. The other is the New York State building code. So there's a team of plan reviewers in our office that you would work with on making sure that the drawing you submit is compliant with the New York State building code.
Yep.
All right. Is that something you and Matt can discuss on the phone or stop in your office or something?
Yeah, we will discuss it. Yeah, because you can't get a building permit without meeting that code as well.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't.
Okay. Any other question, Dave? Any other questions?
Yeah, my other question is on the actual treads and risers, and then the portion of the decking that you're intending to replace. Do you have a species or wood species? What are you planning this for these treads and risers to look like? Are you gonna paint the risers? Are the treads going to be a natural wood? Can you give us a little bit of insight on what your plans are for not only finishes but maybe colors and such?
Sure. Off the top of my head, knowing how they come, they're heavy, they're pressure treated. They come with grooves like this in them, for the sake of water drainage and ice buildup and such. They already are pressure treated. They're a natural color. They have that darker color to begin with because they're pressure treated. I would like to paint them, just to match the house, if that's okay. Well, if not, I'll just, stain it with a clear coat stain to keep clear coat waterproofing stain. You can't use a clear coat waterproofing liquid so that it retains a natural color. It doesn't matter to me either way. Stains come as waterproofing stains, or I've done that with my own decks, my own tree forts, both ways. So it keeps the natural color.
Being that this is a historic property, did you consider other more historic wood species, yellow pine, for instance, pressure treated wouldn't exactly fall into the historic character of a, one of these houses in the historic district. So I think, there's no information on that on the drawings, and from what it sounds like, it probably is not going to fall into, aesthetically what the an historic stair is would look like. So I'll pass on to Karsten a little bit, and we probably are going to deliberate on this, but I'd carefully consider what the finish.
Yeah, but that's a good, I mean, that helps with the question for me. I mean, what I do, whether it's pressure treated or not pressure treated, what I did like is it has a bull nose to it, and it has little grooves like this for feet and shoes and everything to grip into. Are you saying you want more of just a flat wood? Because whether it's pressure treated or not, that it has the bull nose built already, and then it's flat, but with like little waves like this. I thought that's safe and looks good, but is there a look that of what you're trying to describe that someone could send me a picture of? Because the only I could think of other than what I described is just flat wood, which seems a lot slipperier than me. Doesn't matter to me. Wood's wood. I'll put down whatever you need to put down, but I kind of
actually wood isn't wood. What's appropriate for that porch is pine, because that's what was originally done there. But we're in the questions section. Do you have any other further questions, David?
No, I think I'm through with.
Okay.
That.
Thank you. Karsten, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Just quick, I'm assuming the hedgerow in the front of the house, that'll be just reduced to accommodate the larger stair width?
Pardon me?
There's a hedge in front of the house that I
Oh,
see.
yeah. I'll just chainsaw those off.
The whole thing, or just opening it up to the width of the stair?
Yeah, opening it up. I mean,
Okay.
I like having bushes. I mean, it looks nice.
Okay.
I don't want to get rid of the bushes if that's okay with you.
Oh, that's fine. Just wanted to get the full picture. All right, thank you.
All right.
Okay, very good.
Any questions?
We're gonna go.
I'm sorry. I was going to say any questions or points you may have made that I may have forgotten. Hopefully, Matt can assist me with over the phone.
Okay, thanks, Robert. I'll take it from here. Matthew Simonis, any public testimony that you wanted to read into the
No, the additional public testimony, which was provided to you all as board members, is also on the website. We don't need to read it into the record as it wasn't advertised that way. But it is available for public inspection on the website. And there is also no oral testimony from the public for this case.
Okay, great. Then with that, we will close the public portion. And Matt, you want to take it from here about deliberations, please?
Yes, this will begin the deliberations portion for case number 3, 34 Vic Park B. There's no participation by applicants or the public.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll start with Mr. Kane. Ed, what are your thoughts on this case?
I mean, I hate to say it because the case was held from 3 years ago, but I think there's enough open items that maybe we need to hold it one more time.
Okay, some of the items you think are open. Well, I would agree with that, but with some of the items you think are open, just to get it into the record?
Well, there's the painting of the stone foundation. There's the wood. I mean, there's two.
Yeah, and then the placement of the, which he's fine with doing, placement of the handrail on the first step, and then the one before the last step. Okay, thank you. I would agree with Ed. It's a much better plan than was first brought to us, and I do appreciate that. I do think that the wood is very important. Yellow pine was, well, and the architects can probably help me with this better, but that is a much more appropriate material. In fact, when I looked at it at this property, I noticed that it was cross-cut right out. I don't know if anybody else noticed that. But Those are my thoughts on it. Gerald Gam, your thoughts, please.
My thoughts, I'm going to start with the stone. We discussed the stone 3 years ago. It's very unfortunate the stone was painted. That's not appropriate for preservation district. I would at minimum hold on the stone because I would like the applicant to look into alternatives for removing the paint and restoring the stone and being in a position to restore the mortar. One possibility is for the applicant to reach out to John Lombeck, who in his letter to the board talked about dry ice or CO2 blasting, which is what you mentioned, Chris. I also, before we saw John's letter, I reached out to someone I knew who was a preservation architect and said, hey, I'm just wondering, what do you do if you have paint on stone? And this person who is a preservation architect got back to me immediately and said, the removal of paint from masonry can be relatively straightforward. A pH neutral paint stripper formulated for use on masonry, and then he gave a particular brand name, I don't know if I should share it, is common and does not require a high level of skill to do. So, Tom, can I read a brand name into the record or not?
You're on mute.
Yeah, I think you can in this case, since it might be involved in helping to formulate a decision here.
Okay, so I'll read it into the record. So this is just me reaching out to a preservation architect saying, hey, what would you do? He said this would be straightforward. The brand is Dumond, D-U-M-O-N-D, Peel Away 1. Dumond, Peel Away 1. So at minimum, I'd hold on the stone because there are a couple of different alternatives that are clearly out there. There are probably other preservation architects and other architects who might have ideas on what to do with the stone. And I think it's a real shame that it's painted and it really detracts from the appearance of the house. On the steps, I'd lean toward a hold just because there's so much information we don't currently have. John in his letter pointed to the end panel and the trim details of the step assembly, that they're not specified. We don't know the species of wood. We don't know the treatment of the lip over the risers. It does give me pause that the applicant is referring to what is purchased over the shelf at Home Depot or Lowe's. I think it's important. If it's available at Home Depot or Lowe's, that's fine, but I think it's important that we focus on what's appropriate for the steps. The final aspect of the steps that needs clarification is the railing. Where it's going to start, where it's going to end, what the top rail is going to look like, what the material is, and what the paint treatment is. It could be done with powder coating. In my understanding is in preservation districts, the more appropriate treatment for steel or for iron is an enamel paint. So I would probably hold both so we could get more specification on the railing, the paint, the materials. Those are my thoughts.
A design professional might not be a bad suggestion as well. Thank you. Okay, thanks, Gerald. David Matthews, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I agree that there's more detailing and it is finicky with the guardrail and the handrail and where it stops at the top of the steps in addition to the bottom of the steps. The heights are dictated by code. But to make that flow into, the existing infrastructure of the stone, porch walls, it's not an easy thing, but I mean, certainly it can be done well or it can be done poorly. And certainly we want it to be done well in a historic nature. I think Gerald, the drawing called out for 11-inch treads, 7-inch risers, which is the standard. So at least the dimensions are agreeing with, the code rough standards. They can vary a little bit, but is that a solid tread, or is it more of a deck board that is the tread and that goes over a substructure which could be out of pressure treated? But certainly in a historic district, we don't want to see pressure treated as the finish materials in there, not only on the treads and risers, but also on the stringers as they go up the side. You know, you're going to see those from the street. And, you know, then the section of boards that are at least mentioned in the drawings to be replaced, do they match up with the existing boards that are going to remain? And then are all those have some continuity to them? So it looks like a seamless porch, or are you going to see the center section of new boards versus the old boards, deck boards in there as you go up the stairs? So those are all concerns. I think, you know, we want continuity. We want it to look like a historic property. And certainly there's a lot of questions still out there that need to be resolved.
Thanks, David. Kirsten.
Yeah, I think, like Dave said, a lot of this is just code driven. My biggest question is already mentioned, is there's a conflict with how that top rail terminates. The plan says continue perpendicular inside wall, and then the section shows it as a kind of lapping over the stone wall. So I think that connection is really the one variable that needs to be spelled out. The stone, I know that's tough. If we're going to say a product, I've used with, I think it's called Rock Miracle before. And I think the only way they're going to know is to test and see what they're able to do. And I mean, I don't know what our decision is as a board, but I'd rather obviously see them leave the paint than ruin the stone, if it comes down to it. So I don't know how we, whether our decision is to test a patch of stone with one or two methods, or.
I have to believe that there's a way to remove that paint safely. It's going to be laborious, I'm sure, but there's a way.
It definitely can be done. Yeah, but it's kind of a test patch. What condition is the wall in?
Okay. All right. Well, would someone like to give me a motion? Unless someone else has more to add to the deliberations.
Yeah, I want to ask a quick question here, and I guess my question is to Tom. Tom, the application was already a hold from a fairly long time ago. I don't like to hold. Does it make more sense to deny and have the board say, look, you can come back without having to wait the 2 years for successive applications?
No, I think what the board seems to be leaning toward in giving the applicant some instructions on what issues need to be addressed to make this approvable.
Sure, no,
is the fastest way to get there. And I've got to say that the reason this is being held again is mostly issues that the applicant was asked to address before and didn't.
Right, which is why I ask, because the opportunity was given, and I don't want to drag it out, but I obviously we need to get, the board has to have enough information to render a decision, which is what we're doing here tonight. So if you're comfortable with that, that's fine then.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing is, if, to the extent there are any conditions posed by the board, if you make sure you understand what they are, so we can put them into decision.
Yeah. I gotcha. Well, no, this was a good discussion that we have that we can review.
Can I ask one clarification on the cover page to this? Under the request, it says to legalize the front porch steps and railings. To me, at least when I saw that, it meant legalizing what's there right now. And I don't think that's not the case, obviously.
Correct. The reason that's there, David, it's a good point. That's the original request from when it was a hold. So typically we don't, I mean, it really technically should have been amended because I treated it as new, but generally what happens is the request stays the same and then the project information changes. But correct, what's before you tonight is to not legalize what you see out there.
I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, can I get a motion from someone, please? Gerald, this has you written all over
it. Yeah, happy to do it. Question from Matt. Matt, if my motion is to hold the case, is that sufficient, or do you want me to detail what we want to see in the hold beyond what we've already discussed.
No, I'm fine with you having to not detail it, but the details that will be included in the hold will be what you have already discussed relative to both the details on the railings and steps and the paint removal.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion for case number 3, file number A-024-21-22 at 34 Vic Park B regarding front porch steps, front porch railings, and the painting of the stone at the front of the house. My motion is that we hold this application and that we set a deadline of 3 months, 6 months. What do people think?
I would give him 6 months. I would personally, my
Okay,
opinion.
that we hold the application and we invite the applicant to return in no more than 6 months' time.
I'll second.
A motion has been made by Gerald Gamm, properly seconded by David Matthews. Is that correct? Okay. I'll call each member out and ask for their vote. We'll start with Ed Kane. Do you vote yay or nay for this motion, Ed?
Yay.
Ed Kane votes yay for the motion. I'm next. I vote yay for the motion. Gerald Gamm.
I vote yay.
Gerald Gamm votes yay for the motion. David Matthews.
I vote yay.
David Matthews votes yay for the motion. And Kirsten Solberg.
Yay.
Kirsten Solberg is a yay. It's a unanimous 5 vote. Thank you very much for your time, and we appreciate it. And Matt, call the next case, if you will, when you're ready.
Yes, so we are going to back up to case number 2. I believe we have the audio and visual solved. Case number 2 is file number A-023-2122. The applicant is the property owner, Pilar Dubac Penny. The project address is 2 Menlo Place, located in the R1 Low Density Residential District, as well as the Mount Hope Avenue and Highland Park Preservation District. And the request is to replace a series of existing double hung windows on the 2nd and 3rd floors of a 2-family dwelling.
Thank you, Matt. Pilar Dubac Penny, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and I also wanted to put on record that all members of the board have visited the site, and we are ready for your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, as you know, our last meeting, we approved the change of the first floor, and this meeting was about our 2nd and 3rd floor. And the documentation that I sent to you guys with this application indicated that, you know, there had been a change to the original windows to look to what they look now, which they were pillas. They changed them to, I guess in the 1980s or 1960s, they must have made this change because that pillar window that's in there now that's when they came out with that kind. And so the idea, like we discussed from the beginning, was we are trying to correct these changes and alterations that were made to this historical home to try to make it look like a true Queen Anne home as much as we can with what we have available. So we are trying to restore them to their original look. We are not changing any sizes. Again, the same thing that we presented when we did the first floor, and we're not changing anything from there. We're just changing the windows because none of them work right. So we are going to mirror everything that we're doing on the first floor for the 2nd and 3rd. And one of the things that we wanted to discuss in this meeting was the installation of the grids or lights, I guess. And I had, presented the picture, the same picture that we've been working with, because it's the only thing that we had. And I enlarged it this time a little bit to kind of see the windows again. And the idea is to do the first floor as we discussed.
What page is this we're looking at?
Yeah.
For the record, what page?
Well, it's just a picture that I think it's the 2nd page of the application or 3rd page.
Or I think it's 8.
It's page 8 of the staff report.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So originally, the windows had no lights, But, I think that the addition of lights are going to be very beautiful to this home, and it will really, really resemble this Queen Anne style. So what we are proposing is you see the same thing that you see here. The second floor will have just that, one divided light. Okay. And the third floor, these pictures show 9. We're only going to do 6. And those are the pictures I sent to you of my home. And I put 6 up on the first, sash. And what we wanted to add was the first floor, as you see in this picture, also has the divided light on the upper sash for the smaller windows, not on the large picture windows, but for the smaller windows. So we wanted to add that for consistency, because I think that it would really look beautiful. So basically, that's the only thing that we are that this meeting was all about. It was just to complete the idea in the sequence of the lights, and keeping the consistency of the home style.
Okay, great. Thank you for the presentation. We'll open this up to questions for board members. We will start with Karsten. Karsten, do you have any questions for the applicant?
2 questions. One, and we were going to have you confirm, the last time you came in front of us, was there a decision made about whether you're going to go with the Anderson or the Pella brand?
Well, basically, it all depends what the final, we can go with either, because
Okay.
they both offer the same features, the same look. They really offer all the options for the historical homes, the sizes. So pretty much it's a toss. It may come down to a final pricing situation. They're very close. So, mainly I want to know what the final decision is with the lights, because not everybody supplies the outside grids with all the types of windows. So that's been one of the challenges that we've had. Some only do inside, some do outside, but they don't have the materials right now. So it's a toss in between the two of them. So if that's not an issue for you guys, we can come to that final decision once we have everything that we're going to do.
Yeah,
Approved.
I was going to say that between the 2 brands, I think that the style of the dividing light might drive the decision. I'm trying to, and again, this is unfortunate, we can't see in person a real sample of what our options are, but I believe the option that the board normally would prefer is the full divided light. But I want to make sure that we're getting the right style of, the simulated grid.
When you say full divided light, what do you mean with that? I'm sorry.
There's different ways that the grid can sit on the glass. It can be kind of attached to the outside. It could be between the 2 panes of glass. There's different ways that if you look at the bottom of your.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I fully understand that. That's what I was just saying before. I didn't think that the board approved the inside lights, divided lights. I thought that you only approved the outside.
Well, in your last application, your window was a 1/1, so there were no simulated grids.
Correct. And that's why we did this meeting, in order to include that.
Right.
But we wanted to make sure that we were consistent, between first, second, and third floor to carry the design of this picture that I'm, trying to use,
Right.
that we
And I'm
have.
just saying, between the Anderson and the Pella, what the different options are for how they create it might be the same across.
They do have the same options. That's why we narrowed it down to many different types that we looked into, Simmons, Marvin's, you name it. I've seen windows. So these two options were the best options that really cater, if you will, to the historical looks.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, Dave Matthews, questions, please.
Yeah, along the same lines, I think in looking at at least the Anderson cut sheet on page 20, at the very bottom, Matt, I don't know if you can go to that one. And Pilar, you've researched this enough, so it
Yes.
seems like you're understanding what the manufacturers offer, but
I've become some sort of an expert a little bit on it.
okay. So if you scroll back up just a hair. Oh, okay. So there at the very bottom, there's 4 options in the 100 series. If you could scroll down to the bottom of that page, Matt, sorry, right there.
Mhm.
So there's the full divided light, which is truly, if you had 6 panels, it would be 6 different panes of glass. So that's probably the most historic. The simulated divided light has an outside grill, an inside grill, and a spacer bar. So that does mimic historic patterns. And I believe we've approved that one in the past. It has a single piece or 2, in a double pane, 2 pieces of glass, but there's a spacer bar in between. So it does mimic the historic nature of kind of a true divided light. The other 2, where the panes or the bars are either on the inside or the outside, are not historic and would in no way mimic what the historic guidelines follow. So were those the 2 that you were considering, either the full divided light or the simulated divided light? Is that the case?
I'm considering the ones that resemble the most historical look, which is, I think, what you can see from the outside. That if you had to clean it, you have to clean every single little piece. Unfortunately, that is the only drawback from it. But that's the historical look.
Yeah. So it would be either the full divided light or the simulated
divided light. Yes, that's right. Either or. And so we're definitely we're not gonna. I don't really like the look of the in between the glass, because that even from the outside you can't really see it well, so that doesn't reflect the historical look at all.
And then my other question would be the color. You sound like you're striving for consistency. Do you have a exterior color?
We are going with white. White on the inside and one on the outside. We may, I'm not sure, depending on what is the final decision on the color of the house, because we're also looking at that. We may have a color trim on the outside that we can either paint or maybe do the outside window a different color. But right now, white is it.
Okay. Those were my only questions. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Gerald, questions, please.
Yes, so just to follow up on Dave, I also agree that either the full divided light or the simulated divided light would be fine. If you want true historic accuracy, it would be the full divided light. That way, if you had 6 panes, each one would be its own individual pane. But visually from the street, they look very similar. Okay, my questions. I will ask if we could turn to page.
And I apologize.
14.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just need a little bit of clearance in what you just said, because I don't want to misunderstand, and I don't know all the lingo sometimes of this. So when you're talking about, because I want to do the look that you see on this picture that I submitted to you, is that considered to you a full divider light? I don't want to misunderstand what you're saying.
So what the difference is? If actually, can we go to page? Go to the photo of the Queen Anne house, whatever page that was.
8.
Page 8. Okay, so if we look at page 8, the way these windows would have been built is if we look at the second floor windows where you have 2 lights over one.
Mm-hmm.
you would have had two individual panes of glass over one pane of glass. And so the bordering would actually separate individual panes of glass. If you look at the third floor, you would have 9 individual panes of glass over one pane of glass, so that the lights weren't just visual, weren't just cosmetic. They actually separate panes of glass. So we own an old house too. And if one of those panes of glass breaks, you've only lost one, you replace one. What a simulated divided light does is, if we look at those 9 panes of glass, instead of having 9 individual panes of glass as would have been there originally, you have just one pane of glass, but you have a grid from the street and you have a grid from the house. So visually, you reproduce the idea of 9 panes of glass, even though you just have one pane of glass.
Okay, great. Thank you for explaining, because that's what we want to do. We don't want to have every little tiny glass in every single pane. We want to have the simulated. That's what okay. All right.
And honestly, I think that's fine. I mean, historically, they would have been individual panes of glass, but from
Sure.
the street, it's going to look exactly the same.
Great, thank you. I didn't want to misunderstand all of the phrasing of these things. So, okay, and we're gonna have not 9, we're gonna have 6 on the top.
Okay, so that's, my question is about the number of lights. So my first question is, we approved, when you were last before the board, for the first floor, 1/1s. Did you say you were pushing back and you were trying to get some divided lights on the first floor?
Well, I guess because the last meeting was basically just to get the windows approved, just towards the end of our meeting, we sort of started talking about lights, and we really didn't have a chance to really discuss it fully. But once I went back to the second and third floor and we were looking at this picture, if you see, the first floor also has, on the smaller windows on the side, the same design as the second floor, which is that the 2 over 1, and we wanted to, I think it would look beautiful if we also do that on the first floor with the smaller windows around the house.
Okay, so I did understand correctly that you were proposing that for the first floor. So
Yes.
I'm going to give a couple pieces of reaction. One is, I am so excited that you're doing this work in the house. I think when you're done, this house is going to be stunning. So my first reaction is, thank you so much and congratulations. And thank you, for caring so much about the authenticity of what you're doing. My second reaction is, looking around my neighborhood, your neighborhood, looking at historic houses, I actually think the historic style is to do 1 light over 1 on the first floor. And our best evidence for that is you still have some original windows on the first floor, and they were 1 over 1. So I would be guided not just by this image, but by contemporary homes in your neighborhood and other neighborhoods, and especially by the original windows on your home. And so I feel pretty strongly that the right treatment for the first floor windows is 1 over 1, to have those enormous panes of glass to anchor the house, to give it a foundation look to the house. So that's my reaction. I would still very strongly favor maintaining the original look of your house and doing the 1 over 1s, because I think that is the historically appropriate treatment. My question for the second floor, and this means going to page 14. My question for the second floor is, you've pointed out something that I think we wouldn't have noticed, but I think is useful to point out. That's, let's keep going. So 14, you pointed out that that the second floor windows differ in width. So
just the one over here. Yeah, this one.
Right. So you have that very wide window. You have other windows that are narrow. So the narrow windows, the upper lights are going to be tall and narrow. And you realize that if you do just 2 lights on this window, the upper lights aren't going to be squares, but they'll be more squarish than the other ones.
So yeah, that's what I suggested, 3 just on this size window on the second floor,
Yeah,
because there's one exactly like this on the other side.
Yeah, so my reaction is, you're probably right. I mean, I'll be interested to see what others on the preservation board think, but I just wanted to point out that the proposal on the second floor is 2 lights over 1 on all the narrow windows, but 3 lights over 1 on this window, and I see the logic for it. The third floor windows, here you're showing 6 lights over 1, and Matt, can you show, I think, the preceding image? And here, if you look at the attic windows, you're showing 9/1.
Yeah, and I corrected myself. Should
So
be
my,
six
but my
over one.
question, yeah, and I'm sorry, but my question is, as I look at 9/1, I sort of like it, and it actually fits very well with the historic image of it in Queen Anne House. And it looks like you're likelier to get square panes if you do the 9/1 rather than the 6/1. And the square panes is in fact the look you're trying to attain for the third floor. So
Okay,
why not do the 9? Why do 6?
it's okay. I'm easy that way. I think that I don't disagree with you. I really don't. It's okay. Either one. And I just want to go back to your point. And I understand what you were saying about the first floor windows, and that they don't have the divided lights on the side. But if you really look at this house, like at this picture that you're looking at, I can definitely leave the one in the middle. Let's call it a picture window. It's not a picture window, but let's call it a picture window with no lights at all. But the side ones with lights, and all of the other small ones around the house with the light in the middle, I think it will look beautiful. I think from the aesthetical perception of this, if I don't do anything on the first floor, it's gonna look like an afterthought for the rest of the house, to be
So
quite honest with you.
I want to assure you I am listening to you, but my thought, thinking about preservation, is we should be guided by what was original to your house. And we actually know that your original first floor windows were single undivided lights. And I can also tell you that's authentic. Like, it's true for lots of houses of that vintage. And so I would be inclined to favor maintaining the original look of your house on the first floor, even as you're making treatments on the second and third floor that restore the original look.
Hey, Gerald, in the
But
spirit of
that's not
saving
a
time,
question. Yeah,
in the spirit of saving time, any other questions?
I do not, and thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm next. I have no questions. Ed Kane, any questions?
Oh, my.
Okay, I have one more question. I'm sorry.
Actually, we need to hear from the board member if Ed has any questions. Sorry.
No, my questions have been asked.
Okay. Pilar, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have one last question. I apologize. Is there any what's the word? The single hung versus double hung. The looks from the outside are totally the same. And that's also one of the things that you say on your paperwork, that there is no difference in the outward appearance from a single hung or a double hung. There is a substantial amount of savings when you stay single hung into double hung. So will that be a deal breaker with you guys if we do single hung? This house has over 30 windows.
Can you just explain what a single hung window
Yeah,
is? Does a
I
single
don't
hung
know what
window
you're,
open?
yeah,
Okay.
I don't know what you're
Single
talking
hung
about.
to double hung. So single hung is the upper pane is fixed.
The upper sash doesn't move.
Sash, I'm sorry. The upper sash is fixed. The bottom one goes up and down for, and then some of them tilt so you can clean them. And there's just the upper one is a fixed one. It does not go down or up.
They look the same, but when
They
they're
do.
single hung, the upper sash doesn't move like the double did.
Yeah, they look exactly the same. And there is approved in your paperwork of that I received from the board. So I just wanted to clarify that if I just stay single hung, is that going to be an issue?
I guess we could talk about that in the deliberations. Do board members have any other questions? Okay, if board members have no further questions, we'll go to Matt. Matt, do you have any public testimony for us?
Verify that we do not. I believe we do not. No, we do not. There was just some written, one written comment in the staff report, but nothing additional.
All right, great. Then with that, we will close the public portion. And if you want to talk about deliberations, please, Matt, that would be great.
Yep, so we are on case number 2 Menlo Place. This will be the deliberations portion of the hearing, and there is no participation by members of the public or the applicant during this time.
Thanks, Matt. We're going to start with Kirsten. Kirsten, your thoughts, please.
From the top, I agree 9/1 is the way to go. I would support the full divided or the simulated. It sounds like the owner wants full divided, so I would just say, let's put that into our proposal. The 2/1, I really don't have an opinion on the lower windows. I think that we've already approved what we've approved, so we should let it sit. That was the other issue. What else were we talking about?
When you said full divided, you mean actual separate panes of glass?
That's what the owner
just
is
wanted to be clear.
suggesting, so why wouldn't we?
I mean,
Yeah.
I heard her, I might have misunderstood, but I thought I heard her just say she wanted simulated, but I mean.
I heard
No,
full
I'm with Tom. I asked that question and she said she wanted these simulated. She wanted a single sheet of glass
Okay,
simulated
All right,
dividing.
I'm happy to leave that to the owner then, one of the two options. And I keep forgetting what I was gonna say. So it's probably not important. Oh, and then I think that if the original windows were double hung, we should approve double hung. That's
Yeah.
all.
Okay. Dave Matthews.
It's great that she's taking this on with that. The house, I've walked by there so many times, and it's just great to see that there's improvements going on there. So I agree with the 9/1. I think the single hung versus double hung aesthetically looks the same. So from my standpoint, I could go either way. It's not going to make a difference to me. Functionally, obviously, you can probably get more breezes through the house with the more protection with the double hung, or at least the opportunity to. But aesthetically,
You know, if our guidelines specify one or the other to, in terms of.
I don't think I've ever read through
Oh.
looking at that, with and seen that brought up, but I could be wrong. Yeah, and the 1/1 on the first floor versus the 2/1, I could go either way on it. I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other, but.
Okay, thank you. Gerald, your thoughts, please.
Okay, my thoughts. I obviously have a strong opinion about the first floor. I very much like restoring the historic nature of the house and what is being proposed with the windows. But we know with certainty that the first four windows were in fact 1/1. And that is in fact a common style from the period to differentiate the windows on the three floors. So I do feel strongly the first four windows should remain 1/1, just as the original windows are. Second floor windows, I like the idea of the 2/1, and for the wider window, making that one uniquely 3/1. And I like 9/1 on the third floor. I'm fine with the simulated divided lights. The applicant has expressed a preference for that. Ideally, would get truly divided lights, but I think the look from the street will be the same. And I'm fine with a single hung window now that I understand what a single hung window is. We have double hung windows in our house and our upper sashes are all painted shut. So I don't think anyone from the street will ever notice the difference. And I'm not sure any homeowner would ever notice the difference if their upper sashes, instead of being painted shut, were simply screwed in. So I'm okay with the single hung window, as long as the bottom sash obviously can move.
Okay, thank you, Gerald. The window design that Gerald's talking about, I would agree with. The 1/1 on the first floor, 2/1 wider would be 3/1. Third floor would be 9/1. The two things that I disagree with everyone so far with is, so we let this applicant put replacement windows in. And I would strive to have divided lights. So there, you could see the difference from the street, from a simulated divided light to an actual divided light. It just looks like a fake window to me. So I feel very strongly about that. They should be individual lights. And as far as single hung compared to double hung, they should be a double hung. That also, I think we should at least try to get it as close to the original as possible. So those are my thoughts. Ed Kane?
Well, I don't fully share your thoughts, but I do fully share Gerald's thoughts.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's the idea of a board. We all have different ideas. Okay. Would anyone like to give me a motion? Mr.
Sure.
Matthews? Oh,
Okay. Go for
Kirsten,
it.
no, Kirsten,
Oh, right,
go
now I'm
for it.
stuck.
You're
Well,
stuck.
hearing what I've heard, I'll give a motion the way I like it, and then you guys can agree or disagree. All right. So I'm going to put a motion forward for file number A-025-21-21-22. That's not the right one. File number A-023-21-22 for 2 Menlo Place, to replace the series of existing double hung windows on the second and third floors of the 2-family dwelling, with the understanding that the first floor will be approved as the last application, 1/1. The second floor would be 2/1, with the exception of the unique wider window in the front as 3/1, and the upper floor as 9/1. I would like to propose that we do full divided lights and a single hung window option for the owner.
Just want
I
to make
like
it clear.
that. I second that.
I just want to make a clarification on the full divided light. Are you talking about grid on the outside or?
Full divide,
It's
So that-
individual
so that
pieces.
The
right,
individual pieces, the 9/1 would be 9 individual panes of glass.
right.
Okay, so like a true or whatever it's called. Okay,
Yeah, I mean, it's described in the Anderson documentation.
got it. Okay, and 9/1 on the third floor. Got it. Thank you.
And double hung, is that correct, Kirsten?
I was going to give the option of the
Mhm,
single
single,
hung
okay.
because we're asking for the full light, the true divided lights.
Okay.
With the
Yeah, I
option
like
to
that.
always go to, right, well, yeah, sorry, the single hung, with the option of always going to a double hung if the owner chose, and here's our deliberation.
What I like so much about that, and I'll second it, is that from the outside, they will look exactly like original windows because you have the true divided lights, and no one will know that the upper sash is fixed. I second that.
Okay, a motion has been made by Kirsten Solberg and properly seconded by Gerald Gam. I will go through and ask each member their vote. We'll start with Kirsten Solberg. Do you vote yay or nay for this?
Yay.
Kirsten votes yay. David Matthews, yay or nay? David, you're on mute. Hey, you're on mute, David. Oh, there you go.
I'm struggling.
I'm going to come back to you.
No, I'm going to vote yay. I appreciate the compromise with the single hung and then the true divide. So I'm yay. Thank you.
Okay. Gerald Gam,
For the same reason, I vote yay.
I will vote yay. Myself and Ed Kane.
I'll make it unanimous. Yay.
It's unanimous, 5 vote yay. Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Simonis, will you call the next case when you're ready, please?
Yes, case number, so now we'll go to 4, which is 657 East Avenue. It is a certificate of appropriateness. File number is A-025-2122. The zoning district is a planned development district number 4, as well as the East Avenue Preservation District. The applicant is Lisa Ireland of the Rochester Museum and Science Center, and the purpose is to establish an alternative sign program for the Rochester Museum and Science Center. And we have Carolyn with us of the Museum and Science Center. We have Paul Dudley, who's from the sign company. And is that everyone, guys, the 2 of you?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the 2.
Okay, great. And I just wanted to get on record that all members of the board have visited the site, and then I will swear each of you in. We have, I guess to make sure I can see here, Lisa, is Lisa here?
It's actually Carolyn Stiles that's presenting today
Okay.
from the
Lisa
Rochester
is not
Museum
here.
Center.
All right, gotcha, thank you. So Carolyn Stiles, do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And Paul Dudley, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great, thank you. And we're ready for your presentation.
All right, great. Hi, everyone. I'm Carolyn Stiles. I'm the marketing director at the Rochester Museum and Science Center. As you may know, we're here tonight to ask for approval to replace our current sign on East Avenue with a digital sign within the same footprint. The RMSC is a pillar of our community, and we play a really important role in the local economy. Our mission is to inspire a better future for all through curiosity, exploration, and participation in science, culture, and the natural world. And this mission and the experiences we create position us as a leading cultural attraction that brings in many tourists from outside our county and the state. Replacing a digital sign, replacing our existing sign with a digital version would really help us capture the attention of even more potential visitors. And the goal of this new sign would be able to, would allow us to promote 1 or 2 messages, or up to 3 maybe messages in rotation instead of just 1 that we're able to with our current sign. As we stated in our application, the digital sign would be used for RMSC related messages only. It would change in timed increments, whatever is acceptable, would be acceptable for us. And we would not be using video or animation or flashing lights. The digital features would just expand our ability to attract the community to our upcoming programs and really help us bolster our success and the neighborhood's success. And allow us to have a larger impact. So I will turn things over to Paul to talk a little bit about the technical side of the application.
Thanks, Carolyn. So I'm Paul Dudley from ID Sign Systems. I'm president of the company, and we're based here in downtown Rochester on Atlantic Avenue. So when the RMSC approached us to design a new monument sign and an entrance sign for them, we really took a step back and decided to really think about what the museum was trying to do. And we came away with this brief of, we wanted visitors to embark on a journey of discovery from the moment of arrival at the museum. And we also wanted to look at the actual performance of the existing sign, which is currently installed. It is an illuminated sign, but it's very old and in not great condition. So what we tried to do is look at the current technology and some of the leading edge technology that's available in the marketplace. And we decided that we felt that there were 2 things that we really wanted to do. One was we wanted to make the sign itself have more legibility. So that was one of the reasons why we decided to propose this readerboard face, double-sided readerboard face. But the other aspect which we thought was really important was to really think about the educational value of that sign. So as you can see, and this image here that we're looking at now is not a really great reflection, unfortunately, of what this sign we hope can do. But we're we treated it as a lesson for a visitor to the sign. And we wanted to inspire the young visitors that are coming to the site and actually show them light, moving light, and light that could attract. So as well as the performance of the sign, you'll see these lines that you see coming out of the top are actually illuminated LED tubes. So we're trying to sort of show the movement of light energy in the concept that we put together. I think if you would kindly go down one page, I think there's a slightly better visual of the science in context, just slightly. That's the detail on the bottom left. If you actually look at the location and the site and the viewing distances as you approach the museum, that part of East Avenue is fairly tree lined, and we thought it would. So we wanted to sort of maximize the projection of these of the signs. So we proposed a 9mm display. Now, to give you a little bit of background of LED technology, the tighter the metric pitch of the LEDs improves its visibility proportionately. So, I'm sure we've all driven down the throughway and seen those traffic signs that make you change lanes. They're probably at about 25mm visibility, and the current, if you were to go to Las Vegas or Times Square, you'd be looking at LEDs of probably 3 or 4mm pitch. So the tighter it gets, the more visible it is, and that's really important because the current sign is not legible. It really is not legible, especially in daylight. You can just about see the logo on the top of the sign. But any information related to a display or an exhibition or the planetarium, as the location of the planetarium is completely lost, other than seeing the structures themselves, and at that point you've probably driven by. So the background to this unit is that it's more legible in the day. Now, obviously, people are worried about LEDs, and we face this regularly. And just in fact, today come from another zoning board where we're proposing another large digital board for Rochester Regional Health, and the background, the evening view visibility can be managed. We're talking about a much more sophisticated product than you've probably seen or see recently, because these signs are completely manageable. So in terms, we can fit light sensors onto them, so as it gets darker, so the brightness decreases. We can completely manage the messaging, so it can change at exactly the rate that this board would set. So if you want it to change in once an hour, it can change in once an hour. It has the capacity for video, but we've clearly defined that we don't anticipate ever showing any sort of distracting displays on it, in the sense that showing video or watching a Tyrannosaurus Rex run across the front of the screen. So I think Carolyn's plans for it are to use it informationally, so and as a recognition tool as well, and then add the education aspect to it. So the sign itself, is the overall size of it is exactly the same as the existing sign, and with some added benefits being the light sculptural pieces on the top of the sign. So I know quite a bit about this technology, so I'm happy to answer any questions you have. But basically, that was the philosophy behind how we've approached the design from the outset.
Great. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. We'll start with Karsten for questions.
Thank you for your presentation. My questions are, one, the tubes will be lit up at night, correct?
Yes.
Always, okay. And then the current sign has almost a frame around it with the new LEDs. Would it go edge to edge, essentially?
Yes, they would be a full bleed custom.
Okay. I think that's the degree of my questions. And then from the side view, it's almost, you're going to see a void between the two panels. Yes. So that's kind of like a learning tool almost implied of how.
Yes, I want people to sort of like be interested and look inside, and we've got a little light show designed to go inside. And in the first design that we've submitted, we had it open on both sides, but I probably think I would only have it open on the museum side, and then we close the street side of the structure so that there was no light bleed that would could catch or distract if somebody suddenly saw something different.
So would the top tubes, would they be flashing and changing?
The original concept was to have a very slow moving light pulse moving through them. Again, it's brand new LED technology that's on the market. It's not Vegas quality activity. It would be a very, very subtle change that if a car passed the sign traveling at 30 miles an hour, you probably wouldn't even, you might see a slight twitch in it, but you wouldn't see any, there's no velocity in it. It'd be extremely subtle. We can program it so that it would just subtly change. The concept is light moves as it does in the front of the sign, and you're seeing light movement in interacting with the digital capacity of the face of the sign.
Okay, understood.
And it can also be totally static if that is a preference for the board.
And then I'm assuming the RMSD logo at the top would just be a static, clear.
Yes, that would be a backlit logo that only the logo itself would illuminate, the logo and the museum name.
Okay, thank you.
Which is as it is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I may interrupt, one thing that we noticed in looking at this is that there are some preservation guidelines about this type of sign that weren't in the staff report, but that we wanted to give the applicant a chance to address. One of those being that panel box signs are illuminated from inside or inappropriate in most cases, as are individual black backlighted opaque signs. Another, the guideline says that ground signs must be as simple and small as possible, conveying only the information needed to guide a first-time visitor to the site, and must fit with the style of the building and other signs. And the colors should relate to the building behind it. And then the third guideline is that specifically noted with regard to East Avenue, that it remains residential in character. And the guidelines note that signs along East Avenue should contain only essential information and be as small as possible. So I just raised that so that either in the questioning or in the course of answering questions, the applicants can address those issues as well.
Okay, thank you. David Matthews, any questions for the applicants?
How often would you anticipate the sign changing? Was it, are we talking minutes or like a number of times per hour, or what's, what was your original thoughts on that?
Yeah, ideally it would be, rotating, say, every, I don't know, 30 seconds, 20 seconds. I mean, being able to rotate through. However, I think that the presence of a digital sign would truly enhance our ability to communicate what we are doing. And so I am flexible to work with the board, on that rotation schedule.
And I guess a question for Matt or Tom is, does zoning have any guidance to something like this where these digital signs are changing? I know there's one down at the ice arena, right? Is there any kind of guidance that zoning would imply in here?
Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. The one at the Blue Cross Arena is actually in the public right of way, so it didn't receive any zoning process. That's entirely managed by DES. These are something that have come to the zoning board. Historically, the zoning board has denied any of them for private businesses. Any of them that have been approved have been mostly places of worship, so places that have events, community-oriented uses as opposed to private businesses. In terms of conditions that have been posed on the ones that have been approved, They have imposed conditions such as no blinking, flashing, intermittent lights, no rotating, glaring, moving lights, anything like that. Any sign shall employ lights emitting a light of constant intensity. So the light has to be a static type style light. It can't be flashing. Any event on the sign has to be directly related to the Museum and Science Center. The message change is up to you. They've imposed a whole series of message chain requirements anywhere. Well, billboards are usually in the seconds, but churches and things like that are more usually in the minutes and hours. And then how it's installed, perpendicular to East Avenue as being proposed, something like that. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit. You have the authority to impose those things. I should follow that up with, and it's been my experience that there have not been any enforcement issues with those conditions imposed, that all of the applicants have complied with such things in terms of an enforcement perspective, but that would have to be handled by probably a complaint basis.
Yeah. And to put this in context, those things that Matt mentioned have kind of just been developed in practice. We don't have rules because the zoning as code as it stands now prohibits digital signs. But these factors that Matthew's raised have been developed by the zoning board to give variances to that requirement. And then I would just add lastly that those variances and standards that have been granted were not in preservation districts. So you're not bound or limited to just those in evaluating whether this is something that's appropriate in this district.
Okay.
Okay.
David, any other questions?
No, that was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Gerald Gam, questions, please.
Yes, so my only question is the one that Tom is alluding to, which is, and I think there are good answers to this, but I want to ask the question, why should we approve a sign for the Museum and Science Center that it's unlikely we'd approve for any other building on East Avenue? Like, what makes the Museum and Science Center special? Because I think a sign of this size and a digital display filled with light is not the sort of sign that this board would approve for a church or for the George Eastman Museum or for any other building on East Avenue. Why should we approve it for the Rochester Museum and Science Center?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Gerald. I think that I imagine many of you have visited the Rochester Museum and Science Center, probably have many memories. We appeal and attract families with kids. Our age range is about 5 to 12. And we are sharing these incredible science experiences and cultural history experiences and really shaping the way that the community develops. And being able to attract people is critical for our success. And being able to have a sign that is really present, really clear, as Paul was mentioning, will help with that success. I think we are different from some of the other businesses on the East Avenue in that we are, a really important institution to this city, and the role that we play is, I think, really important. And being able to really compete with the many other opportunities that families have is crucial to I would say development of our community, of the of the younger generation within our community. Paul, would you add anything else to that?
My thoughts is when we did the research on this project, we looked at major museums, especially science museums, and best practice of how people have been signing science-focused museums around the world. And we were looking in Japan, in Barcelona, in Madrid, in London, and what is clear is that a science museum has its own identity, and it has a story to tell. And we felt that we're sensitive to East Avenue, extremely sensitive. But I think there is a place, we felt there was a place for a relatively restrictive statement about science and the excitement of light and the excitement of new science. And you should see that when you're, we felt you should see that when you arrive at the location. Talking about sort of some of the precedents, I mean, we've designed this to fit the existing structure. So, I mean, I assume that structure came through this board at some stage. So we are literally replacing something that I assume you've already approved. I don't have records to say that. But the other thing I was thinking that was an important aspect was, Rochester's, our view is, both East Avenue focused and Rochester focused as a significant tourism attraction. And I think there is a place for a relevant statement of a sign of this quality in East Avenue without detracting from the rest of it. For instance, if you look at the Memorial Art Gallery, you have I don't know if it falls within your board zone area, so I apologize if I'm incorrect, but you've approved as a piece of sculpture, a light emitting piece of sculpture that is actually shining light for 360 around the whole area and projecting onto the building, which I love. I think it's a fantastic piece of work. But that is, to me, actually more distracting in the sense of its amazingness. I'm thinking, of carefully managed, light focused digital sign sitting right there at right angles to the road will give the museum the identity. Its brand will be clearly stated, but also it will allow people to find the museum in daylight and in the evening. So that was our thoughts behind it.
Thank you. Gerald, any other questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. I'm next. I don't have any questions. I want to make a quick comment. I think it's a super cool sign. I think it's a very special place, and it should have a special sign. I think it's a great sign, and I like the technology. It's going to say a lot about our city. It's going to make it better. Just my opinion. I should say that in deliberations, but I don't have any questions. Ed Kane, any questions?
No, thank you for the presentation. I don't have any questions. I think I'm the only one on the board who can look out my kitchen window and actually see the museum, though I can't see the sign. But, as a neighbor, I'm fine with the concept.
All right, thank you. If board members have no further questions, we'll go to Matt for any public comment.
Yes, we do. Hold on here. John Lembach. Get him moved over here. John, whenever you're on, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Let me just swear John in.
Yep.
Okay.
John, just go ahead and unmute yourself, and then the chair will swear you in.
Hi, John. John Lembach, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Excuse me, I do.
Thank you. And we're ready for you.
We appreciate having the museum in our area. It's been here since the mid-1930s. And it's an historic landmark and part of our well-known neighborhood. However, we have worked very diligently since the Preservation Board was passed in 1960. The law was passed in 1969 to maintain the character and ambience of East Avenue. As part of our review of this particular application, we reviewed all the signs currently existing on East Avenue from Alexander Street to Probert Street, which is what's stated in our letter. All the signs are simply there to identify the building where people are trying to arrive at. So to let you know that what your destination is. None of these signs contain advertising. And that's why we're a little concerned with this particular sign for the Museum and Science Center. It's very much out of character for the neighborhood, in addition to its oversized presence at this point. The museum has often found other ways to mark its presence and display current exhibits. For instance, of large banners across the front of the main house building, or displays at the corner, such as the current dinosaur display right now with the shipping crates and so forth. They do rotate those through periodically. This is a destination tourist attraction. It's not one where you just have me driving by and you decide you're going to turn in. And the numbers they quote are 390,000 people, annual visitors, and most of whom are brought in on tours, either from schools in the area or being attracted from other sources out there. We feel that this particular sign is completely out of character with the ambience of East Avenue, will not add to anyone's benefit as things stand now. We'd like to find a better way for them to have a display to provide information to the public. That's why we're tolerant of the existing size of the sign, but not with the LED. As mentioned by Tom Worth, there's been a lot of controversy at the zoning board about different LED signs, the rotation, the dwell time, the brightness angle, and all that. They informally have been enforcing a standard out there, so many nits for lumens out there, and so many changes per minute on the rotation of the sign message out there, but that's still being argued quite a bit. What the city is going to pass for a law in the future, I don't know. There's indications they're going to restrict LED signs. I did mention for the board in the one display in East Avenue that does have an LED sign. It is not in the preservation district, and is much commented about negatively at the zoning board every time a sign comes up. They use it as an example of what not to do. So we'd like to be more supportive of this particular installation, but we feel it's completely out of character with the neighborhood. There's nothing anywhere near like it on East Avenue within the preservation district at this time. Everything else is very quiet, restrained, and it really displays well the historic nature of the architecture and the grand mansions on East Avenue. This will not help. So we'd like to see a different proposals at some point in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other public comments, Matt?
That's it.
Okay. Applicant, you have the opportunity to rebut anything that was said, if you'd like.
Yeah, I would just mention one thing. Our current sign does allow for advertising. So, there is one sign along East Avenue that does have, promote our own exhibits. I would also say we don't often use that corner of East Ave and Goodman for advertising. The current exhibit is a unique situation. So, the East Ave sign is probably our primary way of sharing information along our campus. We're not trying to be more flashy than really anyone else, or to stand out in any way that's inappropriate for the community. But it is a really critical channel for us in communicating what we do. Paul, anything to add?
Again, just from a technical perspective, the LED display at 1675 is an early version of a somewhat, an early quality of LED board. They've come on a long way, and the controllability and the ability to manage them is massively enhanced. So we did think about that when we put this sign forward. And we believe that the sign will be sophisticated enough to be as controllable as you would like it, but yet still tell the science story, which we think is a critical part of your experience at RMSC.
Okay, thank you. I guess with that, we'll close the public portion. And Matt, did you want to talk about deliberations, please?
Yes, so this will begin the deliberations portion for 657 East Avenue. At this time, there's no participation by members or members of the public or applicants.
Thanks, Matt. We'll start with Karsten. Your thoughts, please.
I want to start by saying that I've worked with several museums in this area, including the Strong, and I empathize with the need to draw in visitors and that the ability to advertise how crucially important that is to the health of the museum. So I completely understand where this is coming from. The way I see it, and I completely respect the historic nature of where this is coming from. This museum is a beautiful historic building, but it is a science museum that, as it was, I think it was eloquently mentioned that that excitement needs to be advertised in this museum. To me, the existing sign, we're staying within the existing sign's parameters. And to me, it's really just a modernization of what's already there. It's already a sign that lights up. We're just going to an LED. And I agree that people get scared of the word LED. I do think, as said, it could be done quite well. I've seen it done very well. That said, in a historic district, I think that our board should set tight limitations to what can be advertised, how often the message can be changed. I'd like to see it not change more than once an hour. I even question whether we want those tubes to be static, maybe other than what you see into that little gap that's museum facing. I really don't have a problem with an LED sign here. I think it's completely appropriate for a museum. I think using the Memorial Art Gallery as an example was a really good idea, where it's almost promoting some degree of what's happening on the inside to this museum. So I support this. I'd like to hear what other people have to say.
Thank you, Karsten. David Matthews, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, I think if it wasn't a science center, I'd have completely different thoughts. But the fact that it's trying to stay relevant and preserve the institution, you know, we could make a case that if they don't have the you know, the customers and the clients on a regular basis, how do they survive? And one way to survive and make that building survive is having the relevance in the, you know, into the next 40, 50 years. So I really think I don't have a problem with it. When it first came out, I was struggling a little bit, but then the more I thought about it, being a science center, and if it was going to exist anywhere, this would be the place. I definitely want to stress that this would not be precedent making. It's just unique to this particular location and that the particular institution. I don't think it would fit nearly anywhere else. So I am generally in support of it. I think the restrictions, like Karsten said, that you know, maybe once an hour with a change. Do we even go as far as to say set time limits where it just goes off at night? You know, does it need to be on after 10 p.m. or something like that? Does that, do we calm the neighborhood down by, why does it need to be on an LED in 3 a.m? There's some advertising, but is it really doing its effective? So I don't know. That's, those are some other thoughts of that we might consider. But generally, I think I'm in agreement with it.
All right. Thanks, David. Gerald, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, so I agree with, I support the sign for the same reasons Kirsten and Dave do. And I want to make clear, just as Dave did, I do not see this as precedent setting. We have the light show on the Memorial Art Gallery. We have that enormous photo display that we approved for the power station at the George Eastman Museum. And this is a science museum. So I'm comfortable saying they get a special sign, and a sign that calls attention to what goes on inside that building, and that there's nothing about approving this sign that for me would set any kind of precedent for any other buildings on East Avenue, including other public buildings. That's number one. Number two, where I disagree with Kirsten and Dave, is as someone who lives in the East Avenue Preservation District, I'm fine with buildings that get lit up at night, where if you're taking a walk on a summer night, even if the building's closed, you can see it from the outside and have some sense of what's going on from the outside. So to Dave's point, if they want to light the sign and spend the money 24 hours a day, I'm fine with that, as long as the night lighting, as was entered into testimony, as long as the night lighting and the lighting in dark generally is dramatically different from the day lighting. As long as it's a softer and a less bright lighting, I have no objection at all, and no interest in regulating what hours they can light the sign and whatnot, because we otherwise allow buildings to light themselves up and to place lights on their signs at night. And I also disagree with limiting how frequently the images on the sign can be refreshed. For me, as a pedestrian on East Avenue all the time, or even as someone who drives up and down East Avenue, the value of having this digital sign is that they could announce 2 or 3 different programs. And as I'm walking down the block, I can see what the 2 or 3 programs are. So I would allow them to refresh it every 30 seconds. I don't think that's going to distract pedestrians or drivers, and it allows them to use the sign to its full potential. I think if we restrict them to every 30 minutes or every hour, anyone going past is only going to know about one program, even though they're trying to tell us about 2 or 3. So I support the sign. I don't support it as precedent setting. I would allow them to refresh it as frequently as every 30 seconds. And I would allow them to light it around the clock, as long as the lighting in dark is dramatically less bright than the lighting during the day.
Okay, thank you, Gerald. I'm next. This is the Science Center. Science is all about technology. I mean, come on, where else would you do this? So I am completely in support of it. And I'll make it short and sweet. Ed, your thoughts, please.
Well, as I already said, as a neighbor of the museum, no, it has my full support. I was originally thinking that maybe every 30 minutes would be fine to refresh it, but Gerald convinced me that 30 seconds works. So, I'm fine with the museum setting their own schedule for how often they want to change the design.
Okay. Ed, would you like to give me? Oh, please.
I wasn't going to say this, but why not? I've had one fender bender in my life, and it was stopped at that light. A woman in a minivan with her kids was trying to read the sign and smashed into me. So I have a personal, I personally think there should be some, not every 30 seconds, just because my personal experience.
And as long as we're sharing personal experiences, my only major accident was at the corner of East and Culver, where there are no signs. Like these are intersections.
All right, Ed, would you like to give us a motion, please?
Sure. File number A-0252122 East Avenue to establish an alternative sign program for the Rochester Museum and Science Center. I say we go for it.
Second.
Motion has been made by Ed Kane, properly seconded by Gerald Gamm.
You want to put any conditions as discussed?
Well, no, I'm all for letting the museum decide how often they should change the message themselves.
The way it was presented is how right? The way your motion was the way it was presented.
Exactly.
Okay. I will call each member out for their vote. We'll start with Kirsten Solberg. Do you vote yea or nay for the motion, Kirsten?
Yay.
Kirsten Solberg is yay. Dave Matthews.
I vote yay.
Dave Matthews votes yay for the motion. Gerald Gamm.
Yay.
Gerald Gamm votes yay for the motion. Next is me, Christopher Coretta, yay. Ed Kane.
Yay.
Ed Kane votes yay. 5 unanimous votes. Thank you very much. Mr. Simonis, when you're ready, we're ready for the next case.
Okay, case number 5 is file A26-2122. The applicant is Scott Jennings of the Rochester Zen Center. The project address is 7 Arnold Park. This property is located in the R2 Medium Density Residential District, as well as the East Avenue Preservation District. And the request is to replace 13 windows on the Rochester Zen Center building. And we have John with us. John, is it just you tonight?
It's just me.
Okay.
Okay. I will, let's see, this is case number 5. And Just for the record, all the members of the board have visited the site. And John Lepore, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, and we're ready for your application.
Sure. So first off, name's John Lepore. I'm the Western New York Senior Design Specialist for Renewal by Andersen Windows. Beautiful building. Also had an opportunity to go over there and look at that after our sales rep had met with, well, there's a bunch of people over there. You know, I don't know how much you guys know about Renewal by Andersen versus Andersen Windows. It is the same company. It's two different divisions. Renewal by Andersen is the replacement division of Andersen Corporation. So what we do is we really do specialize in older homes that really, lack of a better term, don't want to get ripped apart. We use the existing opening. We build a window to fit that opening. And we have a lot of designs and options. I mean, I've been here for the whole time and I've heard some things about Andersen Windows that I'm happy to share with you guys in the future, that some of that is true. But, you know, the nice, easy part about this is we are replacing styles and colors that already exist on that property. One of the things is the outside color is sand tone. That's a color that Andersen actually does stock in this renewal. The material that we use at renewal is a material called Fibrex. It's something that preserves the look of wood windows. Andersen has been a company since 1903 that really has believed in using a real wood material, but unfortunately the quality of wood has definitely changed, and we have to maintain something that gives that low maintenance and the energy efficiency that homeowners are striving for now. So Renewal by Andersen is something that we have had a lot of success in preserving historic properties. I heard a couple of people on the panel that said the Landmark Society over there. We were lucky enough to get the Campbell Whittlesey house, and the windows turned out absolutely beautiful over there. I'm sure you guys drive by that quite a bit. So I guess it's short and sweet. I guess I really want us to open up for any questions, and I'm excited to get the opportunity on this property.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the presentation. We will start with questions, and we'll start with Ed Kane. Ed, do you have any questions?
Just one. I mean, the board is not big on window replacement.
Of course.
In the material, it says the windows are unable to be repaired. As the Rochester Zen Garden is looking to up energy efficiencies and replacing new dual pane glass packs into these sashes would not be able to be done. I mean, we've got people on the board who say any window can be repaired. How unrepairable are these windows?
So I know this is obviously a common question on any panel that I'm sitting in front of. So I guess the definition of repair, does it also allow the window to gain energy efficiency? I mean, right now, what is in each one of these sashes is a single pane of glass. To repair them and give that homeowner what they're looking for, which would be an energy efficiency, you would have to go to a dual pane glass, which is going to be 3/4 of an inch from outside glass to outside glass. So when you take that sash apart, you would actually have to basically go around and bore a larger channel to fit that new glass pack in. Now, the problem with the windows that they're doing at this property is the bottom sashes, because there's been so much condensation, the bottoms of those sashes are having rot. So my fear is you try to take them apart and then you try to make a thicker channel to put a dual pane window in. How does that exact window go back into the property? Another thing is obviously aesthetics. You know, you're going to put everything back together. It will not go back together if you're trying to gain energy efficiency in the property.
That was my only question. Thank you.
Okay, I'm next, and I guess I could continue on with that discussion, but energy efficiency has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
You know, we're just strictly looking at the aesthetics.
Yep.
Describe, if you, I'll take.
I got to add to what Chris said, that in our guidelines, which were done with help from window professionals, it stated quite clearly that that you could often preserve energy efficiency consistent with restoring existing windows, and that it's not necessarily true that you have to compromise one to get the other.
And I did read those guidelines, Tom, and I believe on the bottom of those pages, those were dated 1995. So, I mean, a lot of things have definitely changed. I would consider myself a window expert. I've been in this business for 15 years. All my years have been here at Anderson. Of course, anything is fixable, but you know, the difference of energy efficiency in 1995 and 2021.
Yeah, we're talking.
Yeah, but we're talking,
We're talking 2011, not
Okay.
1995.
There was two of them, yeah. Still.
wait a minute, can I just jump in here, please? I was asking the questions.
All right.
It's my turn to ask questions. And we are mostly concerned with the aesthetic. That's what we do here. There really wasn't much of a description. I was going to jump on Ed's question or expand Ed's question, if you will. There really wasn't much description as to what the existing windows are like. That's really my question. Did anyone other than a window person who wants to sell new windows look at these windows and give some kind of an assessment?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay. In your opinion, as a person who wants to replace windows or sell them replacement windows, what kind of shape are the windows in?
They need to be repaired.
Why is that?
Replaced. Because the bottom of the sashes, because the condensation from the single pane is showing rot.
Okay. So they can't be repaired?
Can you put a new piece of wood on the bottom? Possibly. But if it does not work and you take that sash and that window out, are you going to have to put replacement windows in eventually? Yes. And these are not original windows to that property.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you started to say something about how they're not original. Please describe the windows. That's really what I'm looking for.
Yeah, so they're a wood interior window with an exterior cladding material on the outside. Some of the windows don't open, so I wasn't really to tell. I'm assuming it's an aluminum cladded exterior window. Obviously, there's no storm windows on these particular windows that we are replacing. One of the things that we talked about, assuming we got approval on this project, is obviously doing more windows in the future with them. And you know, there's some original windows on this property. I mean, the stained glass on this property is beautiful. That's something that we would never recommend to touch, even whether I wanted to sell those windows or not. Yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful building. It's a very special building.
Absolutely. We agree.
Well, that was really the only question I had. Gerald Gam, any questions? And thank you, by the way. Gerald, any questions?
Yeah. Yes, Matt, can you go to the staff report, the first page? And scroll down a little right there. Okay, so this is a follow-up on Chris's question. So I just want to gain clarity here. So the staff report says the application includes a replacement of 13 windows, 11 double hung and 2 casement, some of which are not original to the structure. So as I read the staff report suggests quite strongly that some of them are original to the structure. So my first question is, are any of these windows potentially original windows?
Potentially. I mean, but that would be one of the windows that there's an egress stair going down from. I don't know if we have those pictures in there. It would be one of the photos that we took. And number these, but is there photos in this packet?
There are.
Scroll down.
Yeah, there are photos. If you're looking at the staff report, there's page numbers at the bottom. And if you let me know what page you're looking at, I can go to that. I can also
I'm not looking at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's you're sort of answering my question. It's your testimony that of the 13 windows,
one is what I
12
would
of them, 12 of them are replacement windows already, that they're vinyl clad or aluminum clad wood.
Yep.
And
that
that
one right
at most one of them is original.
Yep. And that's the one that I would say would be an original window. To the best of my knowledge.
That's actually important because our window guidelines speak to the importance and the integrity of keeping original windows. But you're testifying tonight that at most one of these 13 windows is original. The other 12 are already mid 20th century replacements.
To the best of my knowledge, yes. Yeah, there's no way to tell if it's original or it's been replaced, but there's one that is definitely older than the others, if that's what.
Okay, so my question is the other 12 windows, take this window out of it, the other 12 windows, are any of them solid wood? Or are all of them clad?
All of them are clad.
Okay, so you're certain the other 12 are all clad?
Yep, they've been replaced, I would assume, in the 60s or 70s.
Okay, so if they're clad, they're not original. So that's actually an important thing to establish. The other question I want to go to, Matt, if you can go to the application itself. So it was on page 7. So thinking about the leaded glass windows, there was a curious statement here that I wanted to pursue that said, and right here, you don't need to move, Matt, that longer paragraph, the last sentence, we are not touching any stained glass windows visible from the road. Okay,
We're not touching
so the
anything
words,
less at all.
right, so the words from the road raise all these kinds of alarm bells for me.
Yeah.
Are you touching stained glass windows not visible from the road?
No, I think I worded that wrong. I wanted you to, we're not touching any stained glass windows at all. I
Okay.
really wanted to put in there that it's important for us to remain the integrity on the property.
Okay, so the only windows that are being proposed for replacement are non-leaded glass, not even stained glass, but non-leaded glass windows, simple double hung windows. And the plan is to replace 12 of 13. There are already replacement windows with new replacement windows that will be more energy efficient.
Correct.
And that will be Fibrex and Anderson renewal rather than clad windows.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, next would be David Matthews. Any questions, David?
Yeah, just one quick question. If I'm reading the notes on the pictures, all of these windows that are being replaced are third story. Is that correct?
They're all second and third stories, yes.
Second and third story.
Yeah, there's one that's a second story. It's the 2 casement windows. They're side by sides.
Is that the? I was just looking for where those were.
Yeah, it's room 5 south side of the building.
You happen to know what picture page would show that?
I do not have the numbers in front of me. I just have my originals.
I'm looking also. You're looking, you said
16, I
second
think.
floor?
Dave, I think it's page 16.
16, okay.
You're looking for the 2 casement.
That's it, yeah.
It's difficult to read, I will say.
It almost looks like it's third story, but it's definitely in the gable. Okay. That was my only question. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Kirsten, questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, members have no further questions. We'll go back to Matt for any public testimony.
Yes, there is. Give me 1 second here. John is coming in now. I'll let you know when he's here. Okay, John, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and the chair will swear you in again.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, John Lumbach, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, and we're ready for you.
We thank the Zen Center for putting the time and money and effort into maintaining the property in its present condition. It's a notable asset to Arnold Park and our neighborhood in general. We are supportive of this application. We only have one minor concern. It wasn't clarified with the cut sheets for the windows themselves. The understanding is they're not going to be changing the exterior trim around the windows, that these are what they call a slider package. They will change the interior trim, but not the exterior trim. Is that correct?
Neither the interior or exterior trim will have to be touched on the installation of these windows.
So for all intents and purposes, the appearance will be exactly as it is now.
The only thing that would be different when we put that window inside of the original frame of the window, we do have to wrap a transitional piece from the window to the frame of the original window that will be exposed, but the actual trim around each window will remain the exact same as it is right now.
Very good.
That's why there's not a gap between the window and the trim package right now.
We just wanted to clarify that one particular aspect. We think it's a reasonable proposition to replace these windows. It's unusual for the board to okay replacement windows generally, but there have been a lot of examples where the Anderson windows have been used in this area, as well as Marvin and a couple others out there. So we do support the application. Thank you.
Thank you, John. John Lepore, did you want to rebut, say anything to that?
No, we've done many historic properties. We seem to be doing more and more. Boards are seeing the product, and I hope that it's another opportunity, if you guys approve it, that you guys will see it, and it's something that you guys will be very pleased with.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, we will close the public portion. And Matt, do you want to talk about deliberations, please?
Yes, so this will begin the deliberations portion for case number 5 tonight, 7 Arnold Park. Board members will deliberate the case. There is no participation by members of the public or the applicant.
All right, thanks, Matt. We are going to start with Ed. What are your thoughts, Ed?
Well, my thoughts are this is a very special building. And I think I'm the only one on the board who can, from my front yard, look over and see the Zen Center. And I remember a number of years ago, looking over and seeing they were replacing the roof, and they were replacing the roof with slate. And I thought to myself, these people must really care about this building. And I think that's true with this window replacement project as well.
Okay, so you support it as is?
I support it as is.
Okay, thank you. I would support it as is as well. I would have to say that the application was a little vague about the inventories, and I appreciated John filling us in that most of these windows are clad anyway. That was really important. So I do support it based on that. Gerald?
Yeah, I'm with Chris and I'm with Ed. The application itself actually could have been clearer. And just to give advice to the applicant for future applications before the board, it is important that we get detailed information on the existing windows and a kind of census window by window. But otherwise, completely support Ed and Chris with the clarifications we've received. There are no issues replacing replacement windows with new replacement windows. And it's crucial that none of the leaded glass windows be touched.
Thank you. David Matthews.
Yeah, I am in agreement with my colleagues.
That's short and sweet. Thank you, David. Kirsten?
Ditto.
That's even shorter and sweeter. Thank you. All right. Can I get a motion from someone, please? Kirsten, you look like you have a motion ready.
Read the right one this time. For file number A-026-21-22, that we approve the project at 7 Arnold Park to replace 13 windows on the Rochester Zen Center, noting that no stained glass windows will be touched.
Second.
A motion has been made by Karsten Solberg and properly seconded by Ed Kane. I will run through each member and ask how they will vote. We'll start with Ed Kane. Yay or nay for this motion?
Yay.
Ed Kane votes yay. I'm next. Christopher Coretta. I vote yay for this motion. Gerald Gam.
Votes yay.
Gerald Gam votes yay. David Matthews.
Yay.
David Matthews votes yay. Kirsten Solberg.
Yay.
Kirsten votes yay. That's a unanimous 5 votes. Thank you very much. Mr. Simonis, when you're ready, please call the next case.
Okay, case number 6 is file V, this is not the zoning board, A-027-2122. The applicant is the property manager, Todd. Todd, I am not even going to attempt your last name. I'll let you pronounce it when the chair swears you in. The project address is 208 Mill Street. The zoning district is the CCDB Center City Base District, as well as the High Falls Preservation District. And the request is to install a new door, landing, railing, and stairs on the south elevation on the first floor in order to provide a means of egress from a proposed apartment. And we have, I see Michael comes up with a bunch of people, and then there's
I'm Todd.
Todd, are you on another device?
I am. I have another device going. I'm here with Michael.
Oh, okay.
hear me
The
and
reason
see
I
me?
ask
Yeah.
is I see you on the attendees list, so then we don't need to move that over then. Okay, so
No, you're fine.
if the three of you could just all give your names, and then the chair will swear you in.
I'm Michael Chepanovsky. I am one of the lead architects at Hunt Architects and Engineers in Rochester, and I was the lead architect on the project.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead, Todd.
I'm Todd Klicklinoy. I am the developer manager of 208 Mill Street in Rochester here in High Falls.
Okay.
I'm Shijong Wu. I'm an architecture designer from Hunt.
Okay, and I'm sorry, if you could please spell your name, because I have to, if you're going to give testimony, I'm going to have to swear you in.
Okay, SHIHJUNG UWU.
Okay, for your first name, I'm sorry, I didn't catch it because you broke up for a second.
That's okay. That's okay. First name is SHIHJUNG.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with Todd. Todd Klicklinoy. Hopefully I got that correct.
Actually, you did. Terrific.
Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Michael Chepanovsky. Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thanks.
And I'm going to address you as Mr. Wu, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Is that correct?
Thank
Okay,
you.
that's much easier. Mr. Wu, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Great. Thank you very much. We're ready for your presentation.
Great.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I did want to get in the testimony that all board members did visit the site. Sorry, please go ahead.
Great. Just want to say thanks for everyone taking the time to meet with us tonight. We appreciate you guys taking the opportunity to look at this very important building in the High Falls district and the continued improvement that Todd is looking to produce onto the building. Just to kind of give you guys a quick summary of what we've kind of got at the building. The upper floors currently are apartment units, single family residences. And basically the first floor, or kind of the elevated street floor, that we're looking to convert into 2 apartments that was once commercial space. And obviously we've got a lower floor, which is the half-story below grade, which currently is occupied partially by office space for Fringe Festival team. And then the back end is basically common services for the building. So as part of the program that we were looking to do to develop these 2 apartments, we have originally there was a singular entrance kind of coming into this floor when it was kind of commercial space. Off the front, which would be on Mill Street, there was a secondary exit which kind of exited off of a metal landing and some stairs coming off onto Mill Street. If you go to we do have a drawing of it on, I think it was page 8, if I'm correct. Yep. Nope, keep going. I'm sorry. Page 10. Give you a second to rotate that. Thanks. So as you're kind of looking to the west direction, you can kind of see the stair that I was talking about coming out onto Mill Street. on over to the left side. There you go. That's the metal stair that was part of the original approval when the building was turned into residences and kind of had that first floor commercial space. In order for us to develop these two apartments per code, what we needed to provide was a secondary means of exit off of that other secondary unit, the unit over to the east side of the building. Obviously, you can see where the camera is labeled 6. That's kind of our centralized core and kind of our main entry into the building. So in order to get this unit approved, we need to provide a secondary means of exit out of this unit. And looking at the building, it was determined that at some point that this blocked in or CMU entry or opening was once available as either a door opening or a window opening. And we were looking, this kind of made the most sense to utilize as our secondary means of egress out of this unit. We thought that taking the opportunity to kind of utilize an existing opening kind of made the most sense. So that way we wouldn't be cutting new openings into the existing masonry facade that's there. At some point, this obviously, if you kind of go scroll up, you can kind of see where this was kind of filled in. If you go to, if you stayed on page 10, kind of zoomed out a little bit, actually that's a perfect picture. You can kind of see that the masonry was kind of filled into the opening and steel window was once placed there. This seemed to have once been a bathroom at some point. I'm assuming at one point when it was part of a commercial renovation several years ago before it was renovated per the last use as an office space. So we're basically, what we're really kind of proposing is opening that, making that opening, reopening it, putting in a new wood door as a secondary means of exit. So keep in mind, this is not going to be the primary entrance or exit to this unit. Still, it would be on the opposite side of the building where the elevator and the stair tower are. And basically replicating a very similar landing and stair design down to the parking area that would be facilitating that secondary means of egress. So that is really kind of what we're looking to do there. I think that would probably pretty much sum it up at this point.
All right, great. Short and sweet. Thank you very much. We'll start with questions from the board. We'll start with Kirsten Solberg. Kirsten, any questions for the applicants?
I have one question comment, and I think it would be helpful if we could see the rendering image number 8 on that sheet. My question is about, and this might just be a product of the rendering, but that door.
What do you want to see?
It's that particular sheet. It's the rendered image. It's labeled as image number 8.
Yep.
On page 10, I think it is.
Number 10.
Yep.
Yeah, that image right there. If you could rotate it. The only thing that bothers me, and I wanted to ask if there was a reason for this other than a standard door size, that door, if you're to copy what's happening with the windows, the lintel of that door should only almost come to the underside of that relieving arch, and it's shy maybe 4 inches from the height of the windows. And I'm wondering if that height could be brought up to the underside of that masonry arch.
Oh, actually, if you go to, if you scroll up and go back to the opening of that window, you can kind of see that arch is actually a little bit lower.
Is it?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the image and it's driving me crazy that door is lower.
So you can kind of see it slightly, if you look at that image right there, you can kind of see where the turn, like the top of the arch is almost right at the head, is at the lower part.
But so the treatment would be the same, it's just the entire arch is lower.
Right, and that's what led us to believe that originally that most likely was probably a door at one point in that opening. We don't have any historical images of that area.
Oh, in the phase 2.
Huh?
The phase 2.
Even in the phase 2, on the lower end, we do, on the western end, there was another door that was kind of similar to this door. But when you look at the other historical image, there was always like a garage or covering on this end that we never really got a true sense. But that's what led us to believe that most likely at one point that was a door opening.
Okay, so, but the treatment would be that it would run tight to the underside of that arch.
100%, 100%.
Okay,
So
thank you.
really what we're looking to do is pretty much just remove the window and the CMU that was used to infill it and basically put our door into that opening.
Mhm.
Keeping I mean, our goal is to keep the surrounding masonry intact 100% and not touch it.
Right, it looks like there's just a little bit of masonry between that window and the underside of, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Kirsten. Dave Matthews, any questions for the applicants?
Yeah, Matt, could you go to the site plan, that bigger, like 11 by 17? Okay, so this is more of a kind of a site planning question. The stair comes down into the end of what looks like a new parking space or existing parking space. I wasn't clear what either was, but it looks like if there was a car in there, you wouldn't have very much space to utilize the stair. So my question to you, because you have the striped area as well, could you turn the stair so it was fully utilizing the striped area, and then you would maintain a full parking space adjacent to that? Is that something you did consider or would consider?
So we did consider that. Our worry was that between those parking spaces and the drive lane, it is actually a fairly narrow pathway through because there's a guardrail directly adjacent to it, that if we move the stair out, facing out, there's more of a potential for people to hit it. So that's why we tried to keep it as tight to the building as possible. Our thought with the compact car was that we'd limit it pulling further forward and keep it away, that has the potential to leave that space into that parking area to provide it. And then when you see the rendering, you can kind of see that we've actually got a little bit more of a landing based on where that stripe is that someone could walk by. Once again, I think our goal would be that if we needed to, we would stripe more of that parking space that's labeled 5 there in order to facilitate a passage away from the building if needed be. It's just we would need to verify in the field, because obviously we're dealing with an existing conditions, how much room that would need to push, and if parking 5 would be able to coexist with the stair or not.
Yeah, it's a good question. You might end up. We
may end up losing parking space 5 in
you might end up,
totality.
if you lose that parking space, so be it. It's just a question of if people are carrying things, or just a conflict of somebody trying to utilize the stair and coming down into the front of a car. So otherwise, I think the stair and the compatibility with the other stair seems to work, and I don't really have any additional questions. So thank you.
Yep.
All right, thanks, David. Gerald, you're next. Any questions?
No questions at all. This was a really straightforward proposal.
Great. I feel the same way. I'm next. I have no questions. Ed Kane.
No questions.
All right, great. Thank you very much. So what we'll do now is go back to Matt for any public testimony, if there is any.
No, there is not.
That makes it easy. We will close the public portion, and Matt will tell us about deliberations, please.
Okay, so this will be the deliberations for case number 6, file A027-2122 for the property at 208 Mill Street. During this time, the board members will deliberate the case. There is no participation by members of the public or the applicant.
Thanks, Matt. Let's start with Kirsten. What are your thoughts on this?
I have no thoughts. I would approve it as it stands.
All right, thank you. David?
Yeah, just the question that I brought up is really more of a planning issue for the, the parking and site planning, whether the actual flow of pedestrians up and down that stair versus the vehicular parking in that one space. But aesthetically, I think probably if they lose that parking space, so be it. I don't have any problem with it. So.
Okay, thanks, David. Gerald?
I actually think this is very well done. The staircase, the door, everything replicates an existing staircase and door already on the structure. And it's very much in keeping with the historic and industrial nature of the structure. My only concern is the one that Dave's called our attention to, parking space 5. I don't know whether we make it a condition or not of our approval, but I am concerned about parking space 5 being used by cars, because I agree with Dave. I think people are going to come up and down those stairs and walk naturally through that parking space to get out of the building. So that's my only concern. Otherwise, I think it's a very well done proposal.
All right. I'm next. I would support the proposal as it's presented. Ed Kane?
I too support it as presented.
Okay, great. Who has, Dave, have you given me a motion yet?
I have not. I just,
would you like to give me a motion?
yeah, I'll give you a motion. I just wanted, maybe Gerald, do we want to, I guess since you and I were the only ones that had concerns with it, do we feel like we want to add any conditions in there for the use, or is it more of a conditional on site plan approval and maybe zoning issue more than
Yeah,
us?
I'm torn. I guess my inclination is just to approve the proposal as it was submitted, and then let them figure out if they need the parking space. Let them figure out what goes on with the parking space.
Matt, does this still need to go through zoning approval?
Well, it just needs a building permit for this. It's already been reviewed by our plan reviewers. So there's no like site plan review process in terms of that parking space. I do want to mention though, or I guess ask the board. So I'm looking at the floor plan right now. It's my understanding that this entrance exit being proposed is really more of an emergency exit. Is that what you gathered from it? It's not like the primary.
Second means of egress. So that's not to say that somebody couldn't use it.
Couldn't use it, correct? Right. I don't know if the applicant mentioned.
I mean, does it really matter? I mean, because all this board cares about is the appearance, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the only issue, Tom, if it's a second, if it's just an emergency exit and it's never used, why do we care about the parking space? But if they're going to use it every day, then we would probably care a lot more about the parking space.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
one thing is,
have issues to deal. Well, the owner's going to have issues to deal with then, because I'm sure there'll be, I shouldn't say issues, but any tenant or tenants that are renting there, it'll be probably problematic for them.
Well, they can always stripe it, and that, you know,
right.
I think for us, one way or the other, that probably is not a concern. So,
Dave, what if we make the motion recommending that they stripe it, but not conditioning it?
Yeah, that's fair. Okay.
And they're on the call, so they're listening as well, that the board had concerns about it, just as a.
Okay.
If it's a second means, shouldn't it connect to the right of way in some fashion anyway, instead of to a parking space?
Yeah, it should all be striped, I would think, right? Yeah.
But I think it's outside of our jurisdiction.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess informally, we're expressing concerns about it being a means of egress and attaching to the public right of way. Otherwise, for case 6, file number A-027-21-22 for at 208 Mill Street, to install a new door landing railing stairs on the south elevation of the first floor in order to provide a means of egress from a proposed apartment. I propose that we approve the application as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made by David Matthews, properly seconded by Gerald Gam. I will call out each member and ask for their vote. We'll start with Kirsten Solberg. How do you vote?
Yay.
Yay for the motion. Dave Matthews, yay or nay for the motion?
Yay.
David Matthews is yay. Gerald Gam?
Yay.
Gerald votes yay. I am next. Chris Coretta, yay. I vote yay. Ed Kane?
Yay.
Votes yay. It's a 5 unanimous votes. Thank you very much. And Mr. Simonis, when you're ready, we will bring up the last case.
Yes, so the last case is the return case from the November 3rd, 2021 meeting. And David, you actually don't, oh, you can stay on if you want, because we still have to discuss the 39 State Street if you want to.
Yeah, I'll stay on, but I need to abstain from the case as
Understood.
I was not here last month and was not able to hear the deliberations from last month. So thank you.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you. So this is case 1. It's file number A-022-2122. The applicant is the property owner, Dr. Vito Quatella. The project address is 987 East Avenue, located in the R3 High Density Residential District, as well as the East Avenue Preservation District. And the request is to legalize and install a series of HVAC mini split units, as well as install a dryer vent, all on the exterior of a multifamily dwelling. Of note, the request regarding the dryer vent has been updated because the new information actually removes it, and the applicant can detail more about that. And Dr. Quatella, you can go ahead and unmute yourself in the lower left corner, and the chair will swear you in.
All right, before I do that, I just wanted to state for the record that all members have visited the site. And Dr. Quatella, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great, and we are ready for your presentation.
John Witzel, who's my building person, is also on the call. Can he delineate the presentation? I just finished surgery and I'm in my car, but I'm not far from my home, but I'd rather he look at the paperwork and give the presentation.
Absolutely. Could you just spell his last name? I really didn't hear the last name.
John Witzel. He was on the call last time. W-I-T-Z-E-L.
Great. Thank you. I just need, great. Thank you. I have it. I just need to swear him in. John, can you hear me, John? Matt, do we know if John Witzel's on?
He's not on separately. Dr. Quatella, do you mean he's on the call with you on the same line?
No, he's on as a separate participant. I mean, he's been listening and he clued me in as to when this presentation was going to occur. But I have the paperwork with me and I can just pull over if he's supposed to be on the call. He just called me 10 minutes ago and said, you're going to be on. So, but I can just pull over.
He may have been just listening through YouTube. I mean, he's welcome to be on the call, but he's not within our Zoom group.
Dr. Quatella, I emailed him about 10-15 minutes ago saying that no one was on for this case, so he may have gotten that email and called you.
No, let me just, I'm just texting him, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the presentation.
Hold on, Preservation Board members. Give me a second here.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Okay, so I'm just getting the paperwork. It's right here. Okay. So can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to go through this page by page that we sent you. So we still are requesting that the HVAC condenser units be in the location that they're in. And we went back and did the things that you asked. The ventless dryer was something that we had looked at before we came last time, but we looked again We had a lot of sort of negative feedback about them, and actually took a deeper dive. They don't dry. It takes longer to dry. They're much more expensive, like twice the cost, but it really solved that problem. And so we decided to get the ventless dryer and not put a vent in. So that's where that went. Regarding the mini HVAC unit, the maximum length of piping from each mini split unit to the condenser was 75 feet. And then that's why the ones that went on the wall over the portico and then in the back up high, those were there because they were at their max distance from the mini vac and they could not go on the ground. So especially apartments 3 and 7 would not have been feasible without their location in the rear of building. The other thing is that the distance is also affected by elevation because the compressor has to pump upward and that impacts the distance as well. The installer also indicated that apartment 6 could not be reached from the ground location. And it's really almost 3 stories high with high ceiling. So the best location for that one was in the back of the building at the attic elevation, and it wouldn't be visible at all from the front. And so we're showing that in the picture for apartment 6. It's totally blocked, and our intent. So we looked into whether we could actually blend these in by matching the paint color of the background, and it voids the manufacturer warranty, but that warranty isn't that long, and the installer is willing to still honor it. So we're looking to paint these units so that there's 2 different colors. One is the brown stone, and the other is to match the tile, depending on where the location. And I think that they would blend in better with the painting. Then in terms of the planting, the plantings have to be 24 inches away from the units, especially at the front of the unit where it blows. So the question of whether to mount them on concrete, the person, the installer, really recommends the wall brackets are used. He feels the standalone legs offer minimal support and are prone to rusting. There's nothing for rodents to climb into, and the idea of just maintaining and mulching around it is just much easier, especially when we're planning to do these plantings. We did some research as to the type of plantings that we would do, and so understand that what we did here is just outline the plantings for camouflaging these units. We're just this past week, we've had a ton of work where they've dug up the whole perimeter of the building to redo the downspouts. And so we plan to, in the spring, do plantings that are more in front of the house. And we'll probably come back for those. But these are a combination of a boxwood and holly. The Castle Spire holly is a vertical holly that doesn't grow wide at the base. It's more of an upright. It goes somewhere around 4 to 5 feet tall, and it's about 3 feet in width. And then the baby gem boxwood is another vertical boxwood that gets 4 feet to 5 feet tall. And these could be trimmed down in terms of width so that we can maintain that 24-inch distance from the condensers. The other issue, the other good thing is by having them mounted on the wall, we have better clearance with the plantings, and better able to sort of maintain them because of the width of the area of where the plantings will go. I think, we also entertained the possibility of fencing to hide the units, but the feeling was that the plantings, especially these, which are fairly low maintenance, would be more attractive and be a better way to go. Trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, so the area that the plantings would go is where units for 2 and 5 are. And then there's the unit for apartment 3 would be painted, and that is not visible from the front. It's just on the south side of the portico. And then the unit for apartment 4 would have plantings around it. And this would be a slightly different color than the one that's on the back of the building. And I guess the last one is apartment 7, which is the one that has the longest run if it's on the ground, and that's mounted at attic level, and that's directly behind the building. Yeah, and so the biggest problem is just the length of the runs doesn't make it feasible to have all the units at ground level, and that was like the biggest obstacle that we encountered. Looked at the possibility of other units, but many of them have the same distance restriction, especially when you're pumping vertically. So I think that's all I have to say. We went back and did as told and found out the distancing from the manufacturer. We are willing to paint the units and screen them with plantings, and I assure you I will make that part of it very, very attractive. But it's a work in progress. So.
All right. Well, thank you for the presentation, Doctor. I'll go through each member and see if they have any questions. We'll start with Ed Kane. Ed, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, I think I want to thank Dr. Quatella for his revised presentation. And I believe all the issues have been resolved. The dryer vent is no longer an issue. Painting the units so that they blend in makes them less of an issue. The plantings, again, they're going to screen the units. And again, from the beginning, you couldn't see anything from East Avenue. That continues to be the case where as you walk or drive down East Avenue, you don't see anything different on this historic structure. So I'm happy with the proposed changes.
Great.
Thanks, Ed. I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'm next. I don't have any questions. I greatly appreciate what you've done here with this update. Gerald Gamm, any questions?
I have a couple of questions, and I do appreciate the changes that you've made to the proposal. First question, is it your proposal to paint every one of these units?
We can. I had planned to do that. That's why I said the two different colors, because the ones that are sort of down low have to blend in with the existing stone. And I have a question at the end about the stone, because I want to clean it, and I'm just looking for some advice, because I'm worried about how friable it is. And I've called different people. Some people won't touch it. but I feel like we can steam clean it or do something with it. And so, but the key is if I change the color of the stone, I'll change the color of the units again, but for now, with the dirt on the stone, it's like a darkish brown. It's not red really. The tile is an easier match because it's a uniform color.
Okay, so I'm going to take that as a yes, that you're planning to paint all the units. And I actually am really pleased by that because I think that will go a long way toward no longer calling attention to the units. In terms of the lower units, my recommendation would be to err on the side of painting them a little bit darker than the brownstone because you want your eye drawn to the house, not to the units. In terms of your question, how to clean stone, I'm going to go out on a limb and say none of us are experts, but I'd recommend that you reach out to the Landmark Society or reach out to architectural firms in Rochester that specialize in historic architecture, and they might have some ideas. My other question is the lower units, the top of the unit, how tall is it off, how high is it off the ground?
It's about, I want to say 42 inches.
And that was my sense, that it probably was about 4 feet off the ground, the top of the unit. And so
it's not
plantings.
It's not quite 4. It's not quite 4, but I think, I'm not sure exactly, but I think it's 42.
And what is the height of the plantings at maturity? Wasn't it about 4 feet?
Yeah, they're about 4 feet. Some get to 5, like the baby gem boxwood can get to 5. The castle spire, I think, is 4.
So my concern at this point with the proposal, given all the information you've given us with how long these lines can go and your willingness to paint the units, my concern at this point is that the plantings may not be tall enough to conceal the units. If even at maturity, they're not much taller than the units. And so it's something for us to discuss during our deliberation time, but that's my only concern with the proposal at this point, is that the plantings feel more hedge-like and may not grow tall enough to conceal the units.
Okay.
And so it's not really a question. I just needed to understand how high the units were off the ground relative to the plans proposed.
Yeah, we thought about a U. We thought about U's, which can get taller, but the thing with these was just the colors were just beautiful. The darker holly and then the lighter boxwood color. It was just, I just thought it was a beautiful combination. But I will, reconfirm the height, just, make sure, because I thought I was safe with these in terms of covering the height, and I'll double check.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gerald, no further questions. We'll go to David Matthews for questions.
He abstained for this one.
Thank you. I'm sorry. It's late. Kirsten, questions?
I don't have any questions. I appreciate the painting.
All right, great. And then we'll go back to Matt Simonis. Any public testimony, Matt?
No public testimony for this.
All right, great. That makes it easy. We will close the public portion. And Matt, please talk about deliberations for us.
Yes, so this will be the deliberations for the file number A-22-2122. The project address is 987 East Avenue. And during deliberations, there is no participation by members of the public or the applicant.
Thank you. We'll start with Ed Kane. Ed, your thoughts?
Well, I expressed my thoughts. I'm happy with all the changes and I would support the proposal with these changes.
As is. Okay. I would do the same. Gerald Gamm.
I still don't love these units. I don't love that they hang off the building. I do appreciate, however, that the applicant has placed the units in a way that they're not visible from the street. That's a really important consideration. and that they're going to be painted to blend into the building. My one concern is, as I just raised, is with the plantings. I think it's important that there be plantings tall enough that you can't see the units behind. And my concern is, especially given these plantings are going to be 2 feet out, 3 feet out, because they're going to have to grow inward. So they might be 3 or 4 feet out from the units. And they might never, even at maturity, be tall enough that you can't just look over them and see the units. So I might approve everything in this application, but hold for a better developed planting plan.
It's behind the building, Gerald. It's
Chris,
behind the
you and I
building.
disagreed about this. You and I disagreed about this respectfully last month. And I am concerned, I'll be interested. I am concerned that these plantings are not going to conceal the units. That if we're going to take the behind the building argument, why do we have plantings at all?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Because
And
I think between painting them and placement of them, it's a no-brainer.
And I think this is an opportunity. So I would approve everything in the application, but hold on a planting plan and invite the applicant to come back with the planting plan for the rear of the building that offers greater height. And
So we need 4 votes.
I understand the math. I understand the math.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, can I ask a question of Matt? Are the plantings something that could be approved by staff at a later date?
Mean something other than what's proposed?
Yeah.
Like, let me just talk this out to make sure I understand the question. So the applicant has proposed a series of plantings.
Right.
If the board is inclined to say we don't approve of them, but we would be willing to approve on condition that a landscaping plan be submitted to the director of zoning for approval, you could do that, but you would have to tell me what it is you're looking for to get out of that approval, what additional items you'd be looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to have the applicant come back for a third time for something like this.
Yeah, you could do that. So it's not uncommon, just by way of example, to say, yes, we're okay with it, but we want plantings that completely conceal the units or are some sort of evergreen that are, green all year round or what have you. That is something you can do if that's your question.
Yeah, and I would be okay with deferring to staff on that. What I would like ideally are evergreens that will be at least 5 or 6 feet.
I would just note also that according to the guidelines, if you do have any sort of hedge or planting taller than 4 feet, you do need a C of A also. So I would say that they could come back after the fact and they would need to if they wanted to plant something different over 4 feet.
Oh, so let me talk that out for a second then. So then the approval under the discretion of the director of zoning then, Andrew, would not come into play here because of the C of A needed for the height of the over 4 feet.
That's according to the guidelines. I'm not sure how it plays into the
I see what you're saying. To the decision.
Things. Yeah, right. Sure.
I gotcha. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. So yeah, so what he's saying is like generally, I'm going to summarize this. So generally, yes, people planting something that needs more than that needs a certificate of appropriateness. This application before you here, however, tonight that's already been held, if you're inclined to approve it on condition, I think it's acceptable to say, to give guidelines what you want the director of zoning to see. They need to be 6 feet tall, they need to be evergreen, they need to be, and then include that in the approval on condition.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay. Karsten?
I think that painting them is going to make a huge difference. I'm okay approving this as is, but I'll go with whatever. I don't think we want them that tall anyway, because they're going to start to go above the windowsill. I think the point of this, they're building uglies. They're always going to be ugly. And you put the shrubs in them just to give it some softening, not as a solid hedge that's going to make them disappear. So I'm happy to approve as is, but I'm happy to either way.
Would someone like to give me a motion?
I'll give a motion. For case number one, file number A-022-21-22, to legalize and install a series of HVAC mini split units, to paint these units to match the building color, and to approve the hedge and series of plantings as presented at this meeting, that this motion be approved.
Second.
Motion has been made by Gerald Gamm and properly seconded by Ed Kane. I will call each member for their vote. We will start with Ed Kane. You vote yea or nay for this motion?
I vote yea.
Thank you. I'm next. Chris Coretta, I vote yea for this motion. Gerald Gamm.
Yay.
Gerald Gamm votes yea and wanted to give me more gray hair. Kirsten Solberg, do you vote yea or nay for this motion?
Yay.
Kirsten Solberg votes yea. That's 4 votes which are needed to pass. Thank you very much. That will end this evening's meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.
One additional item, don't anyone leave just yet. I just want to finish up the last item on the agenda from the pre-meeting. I don't anticipate it taking long. There may be no comments. But as part of the city of Rochester being a certified local government, SHPO has sent a letter to the office where the manager of zoning has the ability to send in comments, letters of support, thoughts, concerns, anything of the sort regarding the listing of a building. This particular 139 State Street. The property owner has applied for the designation, I believe, in order to use to have access to the tax credits for rehabilitation into a mixed use building, which is what it was built for. First floor commercial, all upper floors residential. You have the listing information. Was there anything that you wanted to, what were your thoughts on this? And we can just go quickly through each person if there's anything you want to add or comment on about the building or anything from the form that you had.
Well, I can start. I read it over and I'm fine with them getting their designation.
I think it checks the right criteria for its designation.
The
Gerald?
vintage, the look, the architect,
Yeah,
everything
I'm
about
sorry.
it. Go ahead, Carol.
Kirsten, you can go.
That's essentially it. I mean, the Ellwanger Barry name alone makes it historic, I feel like, in this city. And yeah, I would approve it.
Yeah, I have no objection to them getting the designation, and my bias is to offer strong support. My one piece of hesitation is I actually don't know what buildings downtown are on the National Register and which ones aren't. And so as I was going down State Street and going down Exchange Street, there are whole blocks of historic buildings. And so it just made me wonder what's on the National Register and what isn't. But I obviously have no objection to putting this one building on.
Yeah, it's a long and I think valuable process that they have to go through. So I'm in agreement to get them started on it. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone. Much appreciated. And that will conclude everything for the evening.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Take care.